conservatives have had a vested effort in driving up the temperature of political discourse in the United States for the past 8 years.
I don't really see much of that. Which conservatives are you speaking of? Can you give me examples?
Yeah, I would refer to Donald Trump.
Okay, that's in your mind a conservative.
Considering he is the leader of the Republican Party, I don't need to set anyone else.
Listen, I'm glad we're back down to a riot.
That was the goal.
All right, everybody calm down.
I'm saying that that's what you want. You want an emperor, and you just spelled it out perfectly. Donald Trump isn't corrupt. Why did he pardon every single person that was convicted of a crime that he worked with? Why did he pardon Manafort? Just admit it. Just say it. I don't know why you guys would just be honest. Just say, I want a king. He's above the law, and his friends are above the law. Well, so you have taken it upon yourself to rise up and fight the insurrection charge.
What? No, actually, I want to discuss the, how to explain this? Actually kind of a lack of decorum on how you communicate on X. Like, why are you so violent? Let's just be right out of the gate. Why so violent?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, we can build towards that. The first question I would have is, do you agree that Donald Trump tried to lead an insurrection against the government, to overthrow the government, to prevent the peaceful transfer of power?
I don't know what he did. I don't know what people are writing. That's the thing. I would just basically say whatever is being written out there, if it be true or not, this is not my case to make, and this is also not what I'm here to discuss.
Oh, well, I mean, if you don't have a position on that, I think it's kind of important. I think it kind of sets the tone for what the conversation is.
I have zero position on that. Yeah, I have absolutely zero position on that.
Then how can you have a position on any rhetoric or anything that would flow from that event?
Because, I mean, on both sides, you see a lot of claims be made, but what exactly can you take and say, hey, this is absolutely true, you know?
So you think there's no way to determine the truth of any particular event? How do you decide what to believe or what not to believe?
This kind of event is really difficult, and I'm not really someone who is an expert or anywhere close to an expert on politics specifically. That's also not what I'm here to discuss either.
Are you, if you mind me asking, can you vote in U.S. elections, or?
I wouldn't. I don't. I have actually zero opinion whatsoever. I like to be as neutral as possible. It's kind of a weird thing. I can afford to be completely neutral. Other people really, I mean, it depends. You know, some people like to have an opinion on these things. I do not. I like to be completely impartial. Okay.
Well, if you don't have a position on any of these things, I don't know what the point is of, I don't know what we can even talk about. If you can't ascertain whether or not a particular thing is even likely to be true or not, what?
No, what I wanted to talk about is, why are you so violent? That is a question. Because, you know, you can interact with people, say, on X or elsewhere in very many different ways. But why in such an adversarial, very somewhat, I think, violent manner? Why?
I'm only matching tone from the other side.
Matching tone? Who has personally called you a fighter?
I mean, we can check. First of all, wait, I don't even think I called anybody that. Number one, so I don't even know where that comes from. Number two, everybody. What do you mean? You can check my DMs. You can check posts here on Twitter where people are posting tons of information, attempting to dox me, none of which has been taken down despite being reported. I mean, there's a billion different things you can go through. That's the weirdest of all the claims to make. You don't think that people have an unhinged treatment towards me on the internet?
Can you repeat that again? Because you talk so fast that I cannot discern the individual words.
Sorry. You asked, your question seemed to imply, or you seem to be quite incredulous that I might receive a whole bunch of unhinged comments on the internet. I can point to any number of platforms where people make a plethora of unhinged comments about me. So for instance, the fact that my people are trying to dox me, or people around me, or people that they think are me all over Twitter. It's being reported, it's not being taken down. People post crazy stuff in my DMs, on Instagram, on other YouTube channels. I don't know, of all the claims to make, that seems to be the easiest one for me to, show evidence of, that people make unhinged comments about me.
Yeah, but don't you think that you being so adversarial is the reason why that is the case?
No, I think the reason why is because I think conservatives have had a vested effort in driving up the temperature of political discourse in the United States for the past 8 years.
I don't really see much of that. You know, which conservatives are you speaking of? Can you give me examples?
Yeah, I would refer to Donald Trump, who one of the most popular aspects of him as a speaker is the fact that he gives mean nicknames to his political opponents.
Okay. That's in your mind a conservative, right? The absolute conservative.
considering he is the leader of the Republican Party, I don't need to cite anyone else. I'm going to cite the leader of the Republican Party for the past 8 years that has the allegiance of every single lawmaker and basically the majority.
But conservatives implies a multiple, a very large multiple, as a matter of fact, given that's such a generalized term. So what are the multiples? What other examples are there? Except for, of course, say Donald Trump, who you are now imagining as a figure.
If Donald Trump is the leader of the party and he has the support of the party, then I would say all of the people that support him are supporting the speech. Donald Trump's rhetoric is basically the largest reason why people support him. So it is an implicit or an explicit endorsement of the way that he communicates.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that every single conservative is in support of him, nor that every single conservative, by that measure, would be attacking you, or that they are somehow... I would even go against that to say that conservatives would actually bring down the temperature of politics because they would just want peace.
Conservatives don't want peace, or if they do, the definition of peace that we're using here is quite different. But when you say that they might not support that aspect of him, when you vote for a person, you vote for the package and all of the things that flow from that individual. We can try to guess why people support Donald Trump, but it's certainly not because he's a student of history. It's not because of his policy package. It's not because of prior political positions. It's because they like the way that he communicates. It's probably the most popular aspect of Donald Trump. So I reject the idea that, well, just because they support him doesn't mean they, enjoy the name calling or anything else like that. I think that that's one of the main reasons why people support him.
So just for the rhetoric, essentially. But that would be I don't know about that. Do you think that someone like, say, Elon Musk, for instance, would be supporting this dude specifically for his rhetoric?
I think Elon Musk would support somebody like Donald Trump because Elon Musk doesn't have any knowledge or information about the political system in the United States. He's largely uneducated about political affairs, both domestic in the U.S. and internationally. And because Trump seems like an epic guy that owns the libs, and I think Elon Musk has been attacked a lot of the times unfairly from people on the left. So as a reaction to that, he supports Donald Trump.
How would you know that he's unknowledgeable given the fact that he's basically a government contractor, in a sense? I don't think he gets more knowledgeable than that. You'd have to understand something about politics, and you have to understand something that is of worth to the government. By that extent, also understand the government in order to actually provide something of worth to it, right?
No. If you're a government contractor, all that means is that you offer some good or service that the government wants to buy. Doesn't necessarily mean you understand anything about it.
Yes, but you have to understand that government.
You just have to understand. You just have to understand how to produce a good or service that the government might want to consume. Just because you know how to build rockets and the government might want to have an interest in rockets doesn't mean you know anything about politics or domestic affairs.
Well, you'd have to in order to secure a deal, no?
At what stage in securing a deal with the government do you think you have to know anything about politics?
Also, why was Obama there at the launch site? I think maybe there was something that's very political about that too. Obama was literally there.
I have zero interest in talking about Obama right now.
Yeah, but that is an example of something that's political, and something where I'd say he was very knowledgeable of something that's political because he had such a important political figure so close to what he was doing.
Having a political figure close to you doesn't mean that you have an understanding of politics. To recenter, you don't need an understanding of politics to sell services to the government. All you have to do is produce a particular good or service that the government wants to buy. Nothing more, nothing less.
Have you ever provided any goods to the government?
Sold goods or services to the government? No, I don't think so. I mean, I've been friends with people that are contractors for like city services and stuff, but to the federal government, I've known people that have worked for contractors like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, but I mean, I don't think that they cut the deals themselves.
Yeah, but it is to a certain extent a deeply political thing because you are directly affected by the whims of the government.
In that case, every single thing in life is deeply political. I mean...
Well, yeah, of course it is, and that's why we're having this conversation. And that's also why you're just kind of always going back to politics.
Okay. So, I mean, if you want to say that, well, in that case, if you want to say that everything is political, then that's fine. But then the word becomes meaningless, and then I would just find another word to describe a lack of...
essentially.
Sure. When it comes to understanding government policy, I don't think that you need to necessarily have an understanding of that to sell a good or service to the government. You might have to have or something that would help might be particular knowledge around future domestic or foreign plans about like a good or service you provide. Maybe like having some insight there might help, but that doesn't necessarily clue you into domestic politics or foreign affairs at large. It would just be to the particular thing that you sell to the government.
Perhaps. But then again, I don't think he's really supporting him for the rhetoric. It seems to be that I think it's by and large the policies that he wants to implement, which could be very beneficial to his companies, even perhaps, right? Because if you look at, for instance, one of those things would be tighter border control as opposed to what's existing currently.
I don't think that Elon has I don't think that his company has a large investment in tighter border control. I'm not really sure how that would impact
benefit
him.
Perhaps because the country itself needs to exist and needs to be in a stable position if his mission is to be successful.
I don't think that if he's looking for stability, then supporting Donald Trump would be literally the last thing that he would want to do. Number one. And then number two, if we were looking for stability at the border, I think Elon would have had something to say. And maybe he did. Maybe if I go through his Twitter, am I going to find references to him being upset that Donald Trump prevented the Congress from securing the border with Senator Langford's border bill that would have tightened up a lot of the asylum seeking stuff that was going on at the border, provided more funding to clear out some of the people that are waiting to hear their cases in the U.S. Like, did Elon say anything about that when Donald Trump prevented that piece of legislation?
You'd have to look for that, but no.
Okay, the answer is no.
The only grievances with border that he's had recently that he has voiced would be exactly what you'd find if you watched the live stream that he did when he was at the border, basically highlighting what the crisis is down there, which didn't exist before.
What does he think the crisis is?
That the border is not secure.
Okay, that's not the crisis. So if he thinks that, this is even a stronger point.
There's a crisis that people coming over it and they're just coming in swathes, and that's causing a lot of problems, I'd imagine.
Okay, my bad. All right.
What just happened to you? What happened there?
I updated 2 vital pieces of software this morning, my operating system and my OBS, and something is causing Windows to blue screen. I don't know why. So now I moved downstairs to my studio, but my studio is not set up to do audio like this, so I had to reconfigure all of my audio devices, and here we are. But I believe everything should be working. Wild. This computer won't blue screen. Okay.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. All right. Where were we?
Yeah, I kind of just want to I kind of want to keep away from the politics as much as possible. I don't want to do anything with that. Specifically, what I want to talk about, again, because I'm harkening back to that, is the nature of the way that you speak, right? That's it, right?
Okay.
So your explanation for why you speak in, say, a violent manner, I think we can describe this as a violent thing. You say you're doing this because you don't think you have much of an impact, and the other side is doing this as well.
Well, to be clear, I never said I don't have much of an impact. I said that I don't think we can have much of an impact on lowering the temperature. I think that for the temperature to come down, both sides have to be invested in lowering the temperature, and conservatives have shown for the past 8 years that they have absolutely no desire to lower the temperature. That's what I said, or meant, at least.
Which conservatives specifically?
Donald Trump, the leader of the Republican Party.
So that guy and whoever you think supports him are like all in the same bucket, want to drive the temperature up. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. But then don't you think that engaging, so if, of course, you want to, like, say, being or having good decorum on a platform actually has a positive effect, but you think that there's so much of a negative effect being caused at the moment that you yourself could not possibly make it any worse. Is that correct? Because that's kind of what that logic sounds like.
A little bit. I think you can probably always make things a little worse. I just don't think you can make things that much better. When you say good decorum, one of the issues we run into, I think I was talking about this before my 4th or 5th computer crash, the issue that I have with good decorum or good conversation is right now it seems like the marker for a centrist or for a neutral observer to say that a good conversation has happened here is just for nobody to shout at each other. But I think the issue that I'm running into is there are 2 things to look at when somebody speaks. There's the manner in which they speak, and there's the content that they speak. And I feel like we have completely disregarded all content, and we're just looking for people to speak calmly at each other, even if they're saying horrifying things. I think that conservatives have been in the business of saying horrifying things for the past 8 years, oftentimes with inflammatory rhetoric, but not always. But when they don't speak with inflammatory rhetoric and their tone is nice, they're still saying horrifying things. So I don't appreciate it when conservatives are saying, well, we need to bring down the rhetoric. I don't like that joke that you made, when they have been in the business of amplifying and causing the temperature of the conversations to increase so much over the past 8 years.
Specifically, you mean anyone who supports Trump? Because there are different conservatives across the board. The people even who don't support him, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. As a shorthand, when I say conservative right now in this context, I just mean conservative, Republican, or Trump supporter. Understanding there are some conservatives that don't support Trump, although the vast majority do, but not all. There are never Trumpers. There are conservatives that don't support Donald Trump. That is the case. But the majority of the party, you would agree right now, is absolutely lockstep behind Donald Trump, right?
I think so, perhaps.
When you say I think so and perhaps, how could it be any other way when every single lawmaker is lockstep behind Trump, when people that don't like Trump get excised from the political party, and when he enjoys broader support than almost any politician has historically in the Republican Party? What do you mean you think so? It's absolutely the case.
And has J.D. Vance been excised? He has very interesting opinions of Trump.
Because he fell in line.
Are you sure?
Considering that he just got chosen as the vice presidential pick, and considering J.D. Vance is on record saying that he would have helped Donald Trump coup the government in 2020, yes, I am sure.
Did he say those words specifically, or did he say something that, like, what?
He said that he would have, where Pence failed, he said that he would have succeeded in listening to Donald Trump and rejecting the electorate vote in favor of the one that would make Trump the president, because he felt like that was an appropriate political process if they didn't feel like the results were legitimate.
Okay, yeah. But that doesn't seem like advocating for a coup.
That is a coup.
That's an if then else.
Yeah, like if you do this, then you have couped the government, correct?
Okay, cool.
Well, I don't think it's cool.
Again, it's
funny.
We're talking about...
I don't like the nice... I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go do your thing. Sorry.
It's like we talk about a specific thing that is rules of engagement, and then we immediately go back to politics. It's kind of funny. I mean, I don't blame you for this. I understand that, but I don't want to talk about politics. I want to talk about rules of engagement. Again, specifically, I see there is reasoning that you want to be violent, but why not choose to be an example and not be violent, right? Because of course, you'd say here, you're having a conversation on X, for instance, and you're talking to a guy who's effectively dead. You're like basically playing with this guy's dead body, because that's what you're doing, right? You're just like quote posting his thing, and you're saying terrible things about him. Now, I'm not defending this guy, what he does or where he was at. I'm just saying that you just have some respect for the dead, right? And you don't have any respect for the dead in this regard, because you're basically interacting with what is essentially a dead person, right? This is really, really, really weird. Whatever you want to do with that, that's up to you. But that's what that is, right?
I mean, who better
Don't
to
you
make
think
fun
that the
of
content of what you could say about this guy, like, dude, if you have bad content and what you have to say about this guy, doesn't that kind of go against what it is that you want? I mean, what exactly do you want? Do you want to actually have a discussion in which good content is within that discussion, even though it be peaceful, or are you just going to basically use harmful content and still have the discussion?
So this is my view. Inflammatory rhetoric accomplishes some good things and some bad things, and calm rhetoric accomplishes some good things and some bad things, right? So the reason why people are inflammatory is because it riles up your side. It makes people more emotionally invested. It produces a stronger feeling about a given thing. But typically we don't like inflammatory rhetoric because it usually involves dehumanizing, demonizing, attacking some particular person. It increases the likelihood for everybody to engage in inflammatory acts, and inflammatory acts can put you on an escalatory pathway towards bad actions, right? Which is even more scary. But the issue is as Democrats have been as milquetoast and calm, relatively speaking, when you look at Biden as possible, none of the positives that are supposed to come from calm rhetoric have been realized, and instead it's only been the negatives. Biden has spoken over and over again about how he's not just a president for the U.S., or he's not just a president for one party, he's a president for the entire United States. He's brought together people to support bipartisan legislation, and at almost every opportunity, like that famous speech where he's in front of that red background, he said, listen, not all Republicans are MAGA Republicans. This isn't the entire Republican Party. Despite all of these qualifiers, despite his bipartisan support, at least in Congress, and despite him trying to be a president for all Americans, everybody on the conservative side still gives him all the negatives of the inflammatory rhetoric. So if you don't have anything to gain by engaging in a particular style of discourse, and instead you're just accruing negatives, and if you believe that the other side that is engaging in inflammatory rhetoric is allowed to recoup all the positives of that inflammatory rhetoric, why would you continue to engage in a way that's only hurting your cause, that you're not gaining any benefit from, socially or otherwise?
So if I were to kind of look at this and take that as an argument, does that mean that you want, say, Biden, for instance, to be a bit more inflammatory to kind of reap the rewards of being inflammatory against someone like Trump? Is that what you're kind of
correct
getting towards?
So to be more precise, on the last...
More violence.
No, I didn't say violent. There's plenty of steps before violence when it comes to inflammatory rhetoric. So for instance, in the last debate, I think that Biden should be making fun of Donald Trump more for being a convicted felon, for the fact that it looks like his wife is going to leave him, for the fact that, he had sex with a porn star. These are things that are personal attacks that Donald Trump does all the time that rile your base up and people like them. Even if it's kind of a shitty thing to do, I would say, as a whole, it's that's shitty. Donald Trump shouldn't get to enjoy all of the advantages of that while being immune from those types of attacks. For instance, I think a lot of Democrats were pulling ads because of the recent assassination attempt. Republicans wouldn't have done that for Biden. I don't think Democrats should be pulling ads for it. But yeah, I believe that he should be engaging more in the rhetoric that Donald Trump is, because he's not getting any credit for not doing that. So why not?
Do you think he's like actually capable of that?
Yeah, it's much easier to stand up on stage and lie and do slogans than it is to try to rattle off 400 different stats and numbers that nobody cares about.
I mean, he kind of has done that, if you want to take that position.
No, not really. He generally sticks up and he tries to be like a pretty nice dude.
General.
He tries to, yeah, generally. Do I need to define the word?
Yeah. True. No, therein lies the problem.
Yeah. What do you mean the problem? No. Well, if you're going to make the argument that every now and then he slips up or every now and then he says something problematic, again, I reject that. Donald Trump does it as a matter of habit, and Biden might do it as an exception. It's not comparable.
Okay. Yeah, so... But then what do you say... All right, this is really... It's kind of... Hang on, what's this? Now, I'm trying to check some of the responses as well, just to make sure everything is nice and balanced. This is funny. I've been posting about day 30. No, I am not Elon Musk's alt account. No, absolutely not. No. So one of the OSINT guys was like saying, hey, guess who's on with Elon Musk's alt account? No, absolutely not. I don't want that distinction. I mean, look, everyone's going to make that distinction, but I don't want that to be a thing that guides your judgment. I'm not Elon Musk. Anyways, we're going to continue. Okay, so how exactly... Okay, so you're looking at Biden as the de facto good guy here. Let's just establish that. How exactly, like, what kind of jokes specifically do you want to use against Donald Trump? Like, if you could speak to Donald Trump right now, what jokes would those be?
I think he should be making a lot more personal attacks relating to his character and relating to the record of his character.
Yeah, but how is that of any benefit? I mean, how exactly? Okay, so cool. We have now personal attacks. Don't you think that makes you look weaker?
If it made you look weaker, then Donald Trump would be irrelevant on the political scale.
Yeah, but that's not the only thing that he does, right? He kind of like throws that in occasionally.
I would disagree. I think that's about the only thing that Donald Trump does. I don't think that there's any substance on any of his policy platform that people like him for. I don't think people can adequately describe his position on foreign or domestic affairs. He's been an epic failure in every domestic project he's tried to, herald in. So, no, I think that people literally just like him because he's funny and because he insults other people.
Okay. Interesting. And how exactly do you picture that going? How exactly do you picture that working out for someone, say, like Biden, who in this case has various many difficulties, of course, for instance, that he cannot distinguish whether or not his vice president is Kamala Harris or Donald J. Trump?
I'd rather have somebody that has occasional slip-ups in speech where they confuse one vice president for another, rather than somebody who has to choose an entirely new vice president because his last one wouldn't go along with his coup attempt.
No, that's not what I was saying. What I was saying is, how exactly would he be capable of those things, say, for instance, inflammatory rhetoric, if that is one of the things that happens? Wouldn't it basically open up Pandora's box to a bunch of, say, more harmful slip-ups, if in case those slip-ups are within the context of something that's supposed to be inflammatory?
No, I think that rhetoric is much more simple to deploy. I think it's if you can rattle off stats and do whatever else and read a teleprompter, you can say simple slogans and insults. Trump has built his entire, election campaign around just simple slogans. I think if Biden can do so, anybody can do simple slogans, including Biden.
Then why was Trump so effective in the debate, especially in cultivating approval within that last debate, as opposed to Biden, who arguably made also maybe a few inflammatory statements or even mischaracterizations towards Trump?
I think that in the last debate, I think that Biden had a bad debate strategy. I think Biden's strategy was to rattle off a ton of numbers and try to harken back to his record, and Donald Trump was just kind of sloganeering. Donald Trump was effective because he just says things that sound good, and he doesn't really speak with much substance, but that's what conservatives have come to expect. And Biden did poor because he flubbed a ton of his speech, and he looked like an incompetent bumbling idiot because he was trying to rattle off like tons of numbers and stats and figures from his administration, which he shouldn't have been. He should have done more comments like the morals of an alley cat or whatever. He should have been more comments like that, calling him a convicted felon and stuff like that. That's what Donald Trump ran on. Lock her up. You know, if you're under investigation by the FBI, you shouldn't even be able to run for president, right? These were the things that Donald Trump focused on.
Well, I mean, the problem is if you are referring to him as using alley cat tactics, don't you think that's just going to make him look cooler?
For Donald Trump?
Yes.
No, I think that
because you're basically taking this guy who is somewhat of an underdog already in a sense, right? He's very relatable, I think, to such people. If you took that and you now made this comparison, you basically made him more of a villain. Don't you think that would make him more relatable as well?
No. One, Donald Trump shouldn't be relatable.
Sure?
I think it's only because Democrats haven't engaged with him on that level. There's nothing relatable about Donald Trump. This is a billionaire real estate mogul from New York City who has a foreign wife. What is this, his third marriage? Like, nothing is relatable about Donald Trump. But Democrats never hit him on any of those points. They just try to stick to policy, but I don't think that a lot of people care about policy right now, as evidenced by the fact that Donald Trump really never even talks about his policy platform. I think they just recently published one and nobody even cares about it. So, no, I think that they should focus more, yeah. It makes them less relatable, I think, to focus on those things.
Interesting. Well, I mean, look, here's the thing. When you are seeing a villain in a movie that is cast in a very specific way, don't you think that that villain sometimes performs better in terms of audience reception than the actual hero of the story?
I think sometimes they can be, but right now trying to be even-handed with Trump and trying to criticize, the Democrat side from the Democrats themselves it hasn't worked. This doesn't seem to be working in any way, size, shape, or form. We just recently had an insane, not to get too political, but there was recently a pretty wild immunity grant to the president that just came out from the Supreme Court, and liberals have spent far more time, probably 10 times as much time, talking about Biden's senility than they did about that Supreme Court decision. That's wild to me, and I think it shows a misfocus on the media of trying to hold themselves accountable too much when the right doesn't desire to hold themselves accountable at all.
So you're basically saying they should make up more nonsense.
I didn't say anything about making anything up. I'm just saying that you have to understand the rules. I mean,
you're talking about accountability.
By those rules.
Yeah, sure, but you're talking about accountability, right? So there's a shift in the game where dirty tactics are being deployed, and you're saying that some dirty tactics ought to be used if it helps your cause. Well, then one of those dirty tactics would, in this case, also be lying in order to confuse your enemy. Would you actually say that that's okay?
I consider lying, I think, would be immoral. I don't think making fun of somebody for things that are true is necessarily immoral. It's just maybe not the best thing to do sometimes. But if those are the rules of the game that are being played, then those are the rules that you have to adhere to. You might think it honorable to fight with only sword and shield, but if you step into an arena where everybody has an AK-47, you can fight as honorably as you want. You're probably going to get killed pretty quickly. So I think that you have to take up, whatever the tools are being used in a particular environment you're in, and you've got to function in that environment with those tools, rather than trying to hold yourself to some standard that nobody cares about and that you're not getting any credit for, that's hurting your campaign ability. To be said, I would never say somebody should lie. That's a tool I think that should still be reserved for the conservatives and for Trump.
Okay, cool. Yeah. About the lies. Yeah, cool. So more personal insults, less decorum.
Yeah, until I see maybe at some point, maybe if the Democrats do it, maybe the Republicans at some point were like, wait a second, hold on, maybe this isn't good. Maybe this isn't a good direction to go in. But if you have an environment set up where one side is allowed to act, aggressively the entire time and the other side isn't, then why would anybody on the side that's acting aggressively call for decorum? There's no reason to, right? You're getting away with all of it. Nobody's holding you accountable for anything, and the other side's not even responding, right? In evolutionary biology, you've got these tit-for-tat systems that show species that when you engage in a certain type of antisocial behavior, there's often a punishment for it, a tat for your tit. And if there is no tat, then those types of organisms will run rampant, and they will take over whatever social system they're in because they can attack with impunity. So I think conservatives need to understand that, well, hold on, if we're going to set the bar at this level and we're going to engage in this type of rhetoric, maybe it is going to come back and hurt us a little bit too, which tragically, if one would say, is I think what happened at that event when that guy got shot, that the Republicans have been in charge of turning the rhetoric up over and over again, denying the election results, saying that Democrats are trying to steal the country, saying they're trying to, steal.
Yeah, we've heard all these talking points.
I understand. Well, they're not just talking points. They're not just talking points. They're true. And when you engage in that type of behavior,
talking points.
That's fine. But when that behavior happens, it's not surprising when people get violent. Yeah.
I often platform and communicate with many people who are on the left, right? Say, for instance, when the border crisis started ramping up and there were spaces about said border crisis, everybody else was like basically grabbing their Republican best friend. I just basically brought the most left-wing guys I could find because that was in short supply. And I said, hey, let's have a conversation with these guys to actually understand what their takes are. So I kind of feel those feel somewhat like talking points because I've heard them so much. So they are kind of like talking points in a sense. But something I wanted to ask you, so given that you are saying you want to go a bit more, so, I mean, I would term this violent because this kind of is, because if you're being inflammatory, that is, by definition, I think, violent. I think there's also a certain degree of being inflammatory where it turns into hate speech, which I think is absolutely deplorable. There is a person whose name is Chase Geyser, who you recently blocked, who challenged you to a lawful duel under the Texas Penal Code 2206. And what's your response to that?
I don't have any desire to duel anybody to the death right now, so I think I didn't respond to him.
Well, I mean, I guess you want to take up a certain type of stance that equals the other side. This duel doesn't have to be to the death.
Well, I don't understand what accepting or rejecting a duel has anything to do with any of the things that I'm saying right now.
Well, you are saying that we ought to basically emulate the tactics of the other side, thereby being deflammatory in order to win, right? To win more ground.
I don't think that the other side is winning more ground by challenging people to duels. I don't think that's an issue that we're having right now.
Well, those are essentially duels, right? Because if you are going to be inflammatory, you're essentially engaging with a type of duel. An open duel that can be taken by another side or not. It could be taken by anyone. If I were to say, for instance, attack you or any personal element about you, then is that not necessarily a duel in a sense? Because you will have an incentive to kind of defend yourself, react to it in some way. And so you've basically, therefore, engaged in a duel. So I see it as basically the same thing.
Well, if it's basically the same thing, then I already have accepted and I'm dueling right now. I continue to speak. That's the manner in which I fight with people, and I do it with my voice, and I will continue to do it with my voice.
Cool. But why did you block the other side then?
Because he was challenging me to a pistol shoot-off.
Doesn't have to be. We can also set different rules of engagement. But still, if he wants to communicate with you, you can give a reason that you don't want to do this. But why is your response a block?
Because
given that you want to hear out the other side.
Yeah, because he wasn't challenging me to any type. If he wanted to challenge me to a debate, then I would accept. But I'm not going to accept a boxing match or a shoot-off or a pistol duel or anything else because that's not what I'm in the business of doing.
Yeah, but still, why block? You could just say that to him. Why block?
Because I have thousands of people that are tweeting at me constantly, and if somebody says something of no value, I would rather just block them. It's quicker. I don't have the time to respond to every single deranged thing that shows up in my replies.
You could also mute certain words. Doesn't mean that you have to block the person. If you're dissatisfied with certain things that you're saying, say, for instance, if I were to call you a very specific word that's constantly used, or say I'm using a particular talking point, it's almost like a copy-paste, you can choose to mute that exact talking point, and you would basically still see everything else. So why aren't you doing that?
When you mute somebody, do they show up underneath your replies?
Not muting the person, I mean muting the words / talking points.
If I mute the word or talking point, do they show up under my replies?
I don't think they do. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think you would see those.
I mean for other people.
For other people? I think so, yes. But if other people engage with those comments, and if they talk about it in the same way, then they wouldn't see it still.
No, I'd rather just block them. I have no desire to engage with that. I don't think they offer anything of value underneath my own tweets, so I'd rather just block those people and move on. Everybody has the ability to block on this platform. If you want to, then simply block and move on.
Well, I mean, it's not a duel to the death, though. Okay, under penal code, it's not a duel to the death.
Okay. Does he? If you
want to talk to him, I could get him up right now.
If you want to, if he wants to come and have a debate, or yeah, sure, bring him up if you want.
Cool, I guess. Let me ask him. That's probably gonna take a while.
Yeah, no problem.
If it takes a while to respond, it probably means that he's communicating. Saying, hey, can we get this set up? Because it could be funny. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's going to chill on itself for a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, just ask him. So we'll keep this on the down low. If you could debate anyone else, who would it be? because I kind of feel like we could also open up the space a little bit, because I kind of feel like we've kind of reached a stalemate in a sense. I still kind of think that I have an answer entirely for why exactly you would engage in, what could be defined as hate speech. Like, why do that?
Well,
what's the use of this?
The reason is it's like it would be like us debating, or me debating you over, do you think that solid or liquid rocket fuel is a better propellant, but saying I don't want to talk about physics. I can't really talk to you about the nature of inflammatory rhetoric if we're not able to dive into the political issues that are underlying all of the rhetoric itself. So it's hard.
No, we can definitely talk about rocket fuel in the sense, right? Your kind of rocket fuel is solid here, but it also is the wrong type of rocket fuel for the rocket that you want to run. It's actually an inferior version of that same rocket fuel that I'm using right now, which is actually also liquid.
Yeah, but I disagree that it's inferior. I think it's cheaper.
Hold up. Well, cheap doesn't often equal results that are beneficial.
No,
That's
but being able to do more tests,
do
more tests because I have cheaper rocket fuel that allows me to test something more and more is superior to using a liquid fueled rocket that I might have more control or efficiency over, but I have less ability to test it. So
not really, because if you're continually running the same experiment as to there's a reason why there's better rocket fuel, because you need better rocket fuel in order for the rockets to actually perform it the way that they should perform, right? So you actually want to test these rockets in a way that it makes sense. I'm pretty sure you can put the rest together.
I'm sure that it would make sense. To be clear, obviously liquid would be superior, but in order to really dive into that, I think we would probably have to have some knowledge, a little bit of prerequisite knowledge of some kind of physics involved. Otherwise, it'd be really hard to have that conversation. Same thing with when we talk about rhetoric. Rhetoric is not something that comes after politics or before politics. It runs parallel to it. It's part of it. The way that we express our political beliefs is done through the rhetoric that we deploy to convey our political beliefs, and to try to divorce the rhetoric from the underlying beliefs themselves is incredibly challenging. It's hard to make an argument for anything, or you could make an argument for anything if you're not talking about the underlying political issues.
Yeah, but still, it is not, hate speech is not a means by which one can duel, right?
Hate speech is not
you unblocked him. Very nice.
Oh, I unblocked him a while ago, yeah. Hate speech is not a what, did you say?
Sweet. Hate speech is not a good way of communicating anything, right? I know that you're saying, we want to discuss a political issue of sorts. It is it's basically like saying, hey, we have a launch vehicle to launch a certain thing in space. It could be literally anything, right? Because we're using the metaphor for rockets, I think, as everyone understands this. You can have a rocket, you can launch anything. You can launch bombs, or you can launch a satellite, right? This is your choice. You've chosen to launch bombs, which I don't think is actually very conducive to any progress whatsoever. It just basically progresses things towards more of a violent path, right? Something that one should also prevent. Now, if you could look at, say, for instance, certain treaties about how to operate in space, you could look at those as rules of engagement on the platform, because there are rules of engagement, which is also kind of the enforcement of which has led to your demonetization, right? Because you basically engaged with something that could be identified as hate speech.
Well, to be clear, I think I was demonetized because I engaged in a speech that Elon Musk didn't like because it betrayed his political
It is not
ideology.
up to Elon. It is not up to Elon.
Sure, but
there's
I think he's the one
rules.
I think he's the one that highlighted it. I've engaged with much worse commentary towards, say, Palestinians, but it seems like nobody cared about that, and I wasn't demonetized for that. And I've seen other people engage in incredibly abhorrent rhetoric.
Dude, it's just much more. I think it's just much more public now. That's why it's been brought to massive attention. It causes a lot of damage. Right.
I think my Palestinian, anti-Palestinian tweets were pretty public, but regardless, I'm just saying that when you say that hate speech is not a way to communicate anything, I mean, some people would disagree. It depends.
It's not a good way to communicate anyways. You can communicate whatever you want via hate speech. You can launch bombs into space, but it's not a thing that you should be doing.
You keep saying this, but it really depends. Even what you say there, you shouldn't launch bombs into space. To continue the analogy, should you not? One of the big issues that people are having in space right now for low Earth orbit stuff is the amount of space debris there. So maybe launching bombs at debris is a superior way of dealing with it than just deorbiting stuff.
Absolutely not. Actually makes it worse.
Sure, maybe
deorbiting stuff is actually sending up another vehicle and then somehow deorbiting it manually, right? If you were to actually blow stuff up, then you'd have small little fragments that travel around at the speeds which are basically faster than a bullet. Where even a very small object can have a very large impact.
I understand.
Very destructive. And it's unpredictable.
That's
max
fine.
chaos.
Depends on how the explosion is done. Depends on the size of the thing that you're trying to deorbit. It depends on how you're
Absolutely
exploding things.
No.
Okay, potentially. But when you talk about hate speech,
that's even worse because there's still fragments everywhere.
Okay, I'm sure. Okay, when you talk about hate speech as a way to not communicate anything, there are lots of people that would disagree with you because they would disagree based on how you would define hate speech itself. That thing is highly contentious for a lot of people. And so some people would take an issue with the statement itself because somebody like Jordan Peterson would say, well, I should be able to call somebody the pronouns that I identify them as. And other people say, well, that's hate speech. So in that case, who's right and who's wrong? The person telling Jordan Peterson, don't communicate this because you're using hate speech, or Jordan Peterson saying, well, even if this is hate speech, I think it communicates an important idea. Well,
but then perhaps maybe you should use a different vehicle to communicate the same idea. essentially, right? Because if now, okay, so cool, yeah, we're going to have that conversation. But who defines hate speech and how is hate speech defined? I think if you're basically going to hate on a person who's dead, and you're doing this in a very specific way, which I think we can basically kind of look at, I'm not going to voice it because I think the way, like, I'm not going to voice it because that itself just is going to make me feel dirty. I don't like that. It's a moral problem. I have no idea how exactly you can actually bring yourself to type these things out and hit send. It's just wild. I sometimes think that I post psychopathic stuff sometimes because it kind of challenges reality, but nothing comes close to this because it doesn't really challenge reality. It just kind of makes things worse in every way. It's like a blight almost, right? You don't have to do this. You did it anyway.
You don't have to do anything. Nobody has to post anything at all. There's no obligation to do anything whatsoever. So
yeah, exactly. You simply ought not to.
Sure. I mean, you could argue you simply ought not to engage with social media at all. It probably makes everybody's lives a little bit worse off depending upon what particular metrics we're using.
No. There's rules of engagement, right? There's rules of engagement. Am I going to bring an SMG to a chess game? Probably not.
Sure, but would you bring
you just brought an SMG to the chess game?
No, there is no chess game being played right now. There is an SMG game being played right now. I find it hard to believe that the side that encouraged and giggled along with Donald Trump making fun of captured prisoners of war and saying, I prefer the guys who weren't captured, that side has all of a sudden discovered morality and doesn't like it when people are inflammatory towards other people, be them dead or not. I just don't believe that. I think that if conservatives truly didn't like that type of inflammatory rhetoric, I think they would have policed the rhetoric on their side a little bit better rather than encouraging it nonstop.
Well, then you can also make that same exact argument and say that they're engaging with a very specific type of inflammatory speech, even though it be rhetoric in the sense, because the other side has always historically done that. That could also be an argument.
Okay, then in that case, then we'll continue to do it over and over and over again, I guess, until we race to the bottom and destroy ourselves. But right now, the conservatives have shown absolutely no inclination towards pumping the brakes on any of it, and liberals pumping the brakes on it in the past doesn't seem to have helped at all. You have the most, again, milquetoast speaker in the universe is Joe Biden, who we both agree can barely string together a sentence, and we're matching his rhetoric with one of the most inflammatory presidents in recent history. So it seems like liberals trying to turn the temperature down isn't really helping much.
Okay, we could kind of agree on some aspects of that. Okay, now, of course, we're still not really truly addressing the platform thing. We're kind of just edging towards that. I'm like this little thing, you know. You ever played this weird game where you'd like basically spin this little thing in like a bowl, and we're just kind of getting towards the center of the bowl, which is the subject, and then we just bounce back off of it. That's kind of what it feels like. But it's still an interesting game, and it's still entertaining, and children are still going to sit there for hours doing it. And that's exactly what we're doing right now.
What is the thing that you think we're not making progress towards? Or what is the, like, if you could express the singular idea that
you're just saying really terrible things about a dead person, for instance.
Yeah, I think it's funny.
Why? Why would that be funny? Why would horrifying stuff be funny? And why do you think that's good?
Why? Well, why do I think it's good? Why would horrifying stuff be funny? I mean, people joke about horrifying things all the time, do they not?
It depends. Depends on the context. If it's like a horror movie and you're doing something that you have a simulated horror, which is not a real thing, we can all agree that that's not a real thing, then that's just basically making fun of a dumbass movie, right? But if you're actually talking about something that's very real, you know, do I think that we should be making fun of people who are prisoners of war? Absolutely not. I don't think it's a good thing at all. It's very bad form. War is not good. War is very ugly. And I think that people who are in war can largely agree that this kind of practice is very, very bad, given that they're actually there fighting, right? This is also why I don't think that basically rhetoric like here on X, for instance, certain people are doing spaces and they're constantly drumming stuff up. It doesn't even matter what side it's on. It's just terrible. It's bad. It fucks things up. It makes the war worse because it actually brings then the same sense of war into people's lives that have actually nothing to do with the war, then has responses from them, and then basically you have an entirely new war that's waged in kind of like a cyberspace. I don't think that's a good thing. I think that's terrible.
Okay, if we agree that these are bad things, then all sides have to play by those rules. You're in a very simple game theory environment where if one side is allowed to act with impunity and the other side isn't, then one side is going to continue to act with impunity. And right now, for some reason, liberals are held to an insane speech standard where you're not allowed to make fun of conservatives, even if they're, you know, saying stupid shit and reaping the consequences for said stupid shit that they're saying. Whereas on the other side, it seems like liberals have to suffer an infinite amount of cultural pushback or self-censorship or whatever. I
think there's some liberals who, I think there are some liberals who are not too extreme. I'm going to talk about people who are extremely far left. You know, of course, there are a lot of people on the left who I agree with. Many of them are my friends. Many of them I would even trust with my life if it came down to it, right? Just to kind of put that into perspective, right? The very far left engage with exactly what you've just described, and actually I think are causing the most noise.
Okay. I mean, none of them are drowning out the voice of Donald Trump. How do you deal with that? You have to see the other side policing itself. There is no virtue right now. There is nothing to be gained by policing your own side's speech when the other side won't do it. And inflammatory rhetoric, as I established earlier... Is the center left
going to say something to the far left and say, stop this shit?
The far left, yes. The center left has rejected the far left over and over and over and over again. What are you talking about?
Give me an example.
Give you an example. I mean, how about when Bernie Sanders was wholly rejected by the Democrat Party and a moderate one? How about when Bernie Sanders or any far left people didn't really get prominent places in Biden's administration, but rather they went to more moderate Democrats? How about when the For Justice Dems have had to moderate their position so much so that they've been disowned by the entire radical left on Twitter in order to be effective members of Congress? Now, can you give me a single example of any prominent Republican pushing back against any of Donald Trump's extreme rhetoric? Just one? Somebody that hasn't been completely
because I primarily focus on politics, which is why I'm asking you for examples on the left.
Okay.
Because I just don't know. I simply do not know.
Well, that was my example. I mean, if you look at Congress right now, there are no far left people. There are no socialists or communists like there. And the four Justice Dems, of which AOC is the most popular, has moderated a ton. So much so that if you go online, these people have now been disavowed by the far left. Even Bernie Sanders has been disavowed by the far left for calling out anti-Semitism.
Interesting. Wait, that's a weird parallel to draw that I kind of don't want to put any attention on because of what you just said about anti-Semitism. I think that's a very risky thing to make a parallel of.
Well, I can't get demonetized anymore on Twitter, so I'm sorry, on X.
Jesus Christ, man. Yeah, it's not necessarily a good pursuit now, is it?
What's not?
Okay, so what is your position exactly? Where are you positioned at in the Overton window?
I mean, it depends on the particular policies that we're talking. I would be anywhere from center left to far left. It depends on if we're talking social issues or if we're talking economics.
Okay, Okay, so where exactly would you then place the interaction with a dead person? Where exactly would you place that? In which category? Because you just named certain categories, and these categories are then also positions on an alignment chart. So which category does that fall under to?
I don't know if
social issues.
Edgy humor goes into a political binary from left to right.
That's not humor. That's disturbing.
Well, I mean, jokes about the Holocaust can be disturbing, but they can also still be funny. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. Humor can be disturbing. Like that's
no,
you don't think any
of them are funny.
Really? Oh, okay. I think a lot of them are funny. I think that maybe you just don't appreciate any kind of dark humor.
I do appreciate dark humor, but I don't like to joke about war crimes.
Okay, I think those are some of the funniest jokes, but all right.
Oh my God. That's kind of a, I don't know. I kind of feel like that's potentially the issue here, and I think we're getting very close to that now.
So you think there are some things that should never be joked about?
I think there's some things that one should look at historically and say, like, for instance, if I were to take, in Germany, for instance, the swastika is, you're not supposed to use that for anything. Think about it that way. If you now make a joke about it, and you put it everywhere, that's a problem, right?
I'm not
Something
Germany.
Like that, perhaps.
So just to be clear, and I'm not trying to attack any
We're using an
Europeans.
example.
No, I understand, but as an example, I would disagree with that. I'm an American. I enjoy our First Amendment protections for free speech. I would disagree with any law that tries to make drawing a swastika or making a Hitler salute illegal. I think that in the United States, we should enjoy the freedom to express those things.
So if I were to put this more directly, if there was a KKK group and they were expressing themselves, you'd be fine with that.
When you say be fine
expressing
with
themselves specifically, say let's imagine.
Well, hold on, wait.
Because
you got to define. When you say be fine with that, what do you mean? Like, I wouldn't be fine with that. I think there would be abhorrent beliefs. But do I think that like the police should crack down on it? No. Do I think they should be banned from social media platforms? Generally, no. It depends on the type of behavior you engage in. If it's like targeted harassment or doxing or something else, then maybe not. Or maybe you should be. But I mean, yeah, it depends on what you mean when you say be fine with it.
Okay. Yeah, something along those lines. So you'd basically tolerate it to a certain extent. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, yeah, and for the way that the United States works, there's some level of discourse, there's some groups of beliefs that you would find abhorrent that you would necessarily have to be able to function with, because that's kind of how the United States works. We have a diversity of opinion here.
Okay. So within that, by basically within that same sphere, you think it's then also okay to joke about a person who's dead?
Yeah, of course.
What if I were to make fun? Okay, so what if I were to make fun of you after you've passed. I'd make a lot of jokes about you, turn it into a massive trend. How would you feel about that?
Well, I'd be dead, so... You don't think that when I travel, you don't think I joke about that myself constantly? I just took a trip to Israel, and I know that there are a ton of people that were rooting for me to be killed by either side. If I got killed by an IDF soldier, yeah, every lefty on the internet would be blowing up and making fun of me. If I got killed by a Palestinian, every right-leaning person would make fun of me. Yeah, I mean, this is what happens, of course.
Okay. What do you think that is? Because, like, well, what exactly is your position? Like, okay, let's take a little further. What is your actual goal? Like with all of this or what you're doing? You're like streaming every single day, I think. You're causing lots of drama. What's your actual goal? Like, where do you see this going in, say, 10 years? What's the impact that you want to have?
I mean, who knows? 10 years is a long time. By then, maybe AI will have destroyed us all. In terms of what my goal is to just communicate a political message that I think is true and righteous to as many people as possible in as convincing a manner as possible. That's my goal.
And you somehow think that making fun of a dead person aids in that, or is part of that?
Well, more people are watching me right now as a result of said rhetoric than they were 3 days ago when I wasn't. So, I mean, to some extent, I can argue right now that, well, it actually seems like it demonstrably has paid off in numbers. In other ways, I would look at my performance over the past 6 or 7 months, where I think I've had more penetration into mainstream-ish media than I ever had before, but I'm not happy with those conversations. I don't think those were that good. So when I look at the lukewarm conversations or the milquetoast conversations that I had with Jordan Peterson, with Ben Shapiro, with these types of figures, and then I look at the arguments that I made, I would say, well, actually, I don't know if I represented my side too well, because it's just a bunch of centrists coming together and going like, wow, what a nice conversation, but not actually seriously considering any of the ideas being presented, just being happy that both sides were calmly speaking to each other.
Okay, but you could think of it this way, but generally, I think with a lot of political rhetoric, the reason why a lot of people engage with you is actually for the drama itself. It's not actually that you're fostering a positive message. I don't believe that is actually occurring. You may think that is occurring. I'm not sure if that is what you think you're doing, but I don't see that that's happening. Right? I actually see the only reason why anyone would engage with you is the same reason that people have engaged with various other people who have attempted to do the same thing, for the purposes of just basically seeing drama. Right? Because it's essentially what you've defined for me, when you said, hey, I've made a negative joke about somebody, and that has positively reflected on my reach, then basically that's just the textbook definition of clout chasing.
You can call it clout chasing if you want, but I mean...
That's what it is.
Well, I mean, in a way, every single thing you do as somebody that survives off of the attention from other people is clout chasing. Every single thing Donald Trump does, every single thing every single influencer does is clout chasing to some extent. We're all trying to market ourselves and get more eyes on us.
But there are lines. Some are prostitutes.
Yeah, sure. Let me finish real quick. That's great.
Let him finish. Just real quick. Okay.
Like, you can argue that I engage with drama to bait some viewers in, and yeah, for sure, I absolutely do. I do a wide type of content on my stream, and some of it is drama related. But once I have people here, I'm more well read in almost any of the issues that I talk about than basically any other pundit right now in media that's talking about these things. So when I have conversations about vaccines, or when I have conversations about Palestine and Israel, or when I have conversations about the Supreme Court cases, I'd rather catch some people with drama and keep them around while we read the entire opinion, rather than have people go watch somebody else for drama and then survive off of Twitter headlines. So you catch more flies with honey, I believe is what they say, right?
Yeah, but I think your main goal here should not be to catch flies, so to speak, in a sense, right? Like, there's a problem that I have with that specific aim, right? You can gain an audience through drama like this, and it's amazing, right? It's a huge growth trajectory, but it's just not something that is sustainable, and it's also not something that is positive in any manner, right? So basically, your argument here is that you engage with this that is actually negative in order to gain the attention that is needed to spread what you think at the end of the day is a positive message. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I appreciate your feedback. Well, no, I don't. And that I don't respect it or regard it. I would consider that, if anything, I would say I'm probably a subject matter expert on internet relevancy at this point, probably more so than almost anyone else on the planet, given that I've done this for 15 years. I think I know what works. I think I know what doesn't work. I think I've seen a lot of things that work. I've seen a lot of things that don't work. And random comments about how, well, this is going to be the thing that destroys you and blah, 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 like generally come from people that don't have a good understanding of the space.
No, I'm not going to say that this is the thing that's going to destroy you. I'm not actually saying anything about your destruction. I'm just basically trying to ascertain exactly where your position is at for myself personally, and in doing so, also giving other people that understanding. That is my perspective. That is also kind of my purpose on this platform, right? It's also why I talk to certain people. Like initially, it's not a good idea to actually talk to you, right? But I still make this conversation happen because I want to have this conversation, because I have a specific thing that I want to push, right? An understanding of this specific instance, because a lot of this, that's the only reason I actually heard about you. Up until about, I think, a month ago, I have not heard about you. Somebody randomly brought you up. I watched a 30-second clip about you, and then I forgot you again. And then this thing came up again. So perhaps, of course, there is a method to your madness in this sense, in that you have attained an additional audience. But in a sense, I don't think that's really good, because what you're pushing here is not actually a positive message. I would say it's just about as bad as all the other weird memes, like the plane freak out and the Haktua meme, where basically you're just saying, hey, if you do these kind of weird things as a human being, then you'll be successful because you get the max amount of clout.
Well, in order to have that conversation, we would have to engage on substance, but you said you've wanted to avoid political conversation, so there's not really much headway that I can make into that.
No, that is substance.
Rhetoric you don't even need to use politics for this. Rhetoric is not substance to me. These are things that I engage in, and it draws eyes to my content, and then once you have their eyes on my content, then I engage in substantive conversation or research or analysis. But I mean...
the way that you've just worded that is substantive in a way.
No, that's like procedural. That's not substance, it's procedure, right? These are the things that I do. Now, what we do with those things that we do, how we take apart things using these procedures is the substance, in my opinion.
I'm basically saying, here is a box with the potential for something. It's like Schrodinger's cat, but imagine it's a box for a concept, right? It's like a zero, Nobody can actually grasp the concept of what a zero is because it's truly nothing. And the very existence of nothing is not possible, thereby it's nothing, so you have to actually put a box around a nothing for nothing to truly exist within our brain space. So it's actually a thing now. So we're going to talk about rhetoric as if it was a box, right? There is no rhetoric within this box, but it's a box that is always used to deliver rhetoric. Now, where exactly you are going to send this box depends upon you. I just don't think that type of box needs to be sent to someone who has passed away.
That's fine, but to divorce the rhetoric from what's being said is incredibly difficult. The way that I would speak to, like a partner's parent, or the way that is going to be different than the way that I would speak to a child, which is going to be different than the way that I would speak to a police officer who's pulled me over, is going to be different than the way that I would speak to somebody on a social media. Like, all of these things are going to be different. It's impossible, really, to divorce rhetoric from what's actually being said, when rhetoric is just the expression of a thing being said. It's like trying to analyze, phenotype without genotype, or trying to analyze, I don't know, like any two things that are required for each thing to exist and express the other thing. I don't know how you can analyze rhetoric and to find out if rhetoric is good or not, or particular rhetoric is good or bad or not, without getting into the substance of what's being said.
More like where it is applied, okay? So let's say, for instance, we have to, again, these are different types of boxes. So there's something really toxic. There's the box that we don't actually ever want to pull out because it contains something really fucked up, right? Let's say, for instance, the types of rhetoric that you've engaged in when referring to, say, that person, right? You've chosen a very specific type of rhetoric. You've chosen to deliver a very particular box. You've not just like taken the generalized concept of rhetoric itself as a whole box. You've just taken a very specific quality of that box, and you've decided to send it there, even though this thing should not even be sent in the first place. Much like a nuke. You basically chose to nuke a dead guy.
Well, can you give me... Well, I mean, I feel like a nuke is a bad example, because have there not been times historically
where we
decided that we do need to nuke somebody? Or do you think that, like, the nuke...
It's a decimation. Well, it's a conceptual nuke, so you can keep using it.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, do you think that in the non-conceptual sense, in the very real sense, was, like, nuking Japan a bad decision?
What are we talking about?
I think so.
A grown man protecting his family needed to die. And anybody who supports Trump deserves to die.
Prodigal. Hold up a second. We're gonna get into this.
When you say,
hold you cool for a second. Just a second.
When you say a box that should never be pulled out,
I think genociding a bunch of people is probably not the best thing. Like, say for instance, the case of Japan. Do you think it was good to kill all these innocent people that had nothing to do with any of the conflict and just happened to exist in the wrong place at the wrong time? Because I think by all intents and purposes that was the case. And also, even the fact that a lot of their major cities were burnt down with napalm before any of the nukes even landed first. Do you think that was a good thing?
I don't think that there were a bunch of people who had nothing to do with the conflict. I think that all of Japan's population was poised to engage in total war. I think that the entirety of the population was literally ready to fight, hand and tooth over the potential invasion of the American army. I don't think you had an entire population of people who were ready to surrender.
So that's how you justify that. I think the majority of people tend to want to avoid war, because when it actually comes down to it, people are forced to go to war as opposed to doing it willingly. And unless, of course, you brainwash them into that.
Then how did the emperor maintain his legitimacy despite the fact that Japan had been engaged in war for some 10 years? What do you mean? The people were all there for war. They were ready to fight. They believed in the spirit of their emperor and their people, and they wanted to follow the war through to the end.
Or they didn't want to somehow dethrone the emperor because that is not a good thing to do within the time of war. Or perhaps you don't want to do that in the first place because none of the civilians were actually wanting conflict at all. Because I don't think anyone truly desires conflict within a stable life. I'm pretty sure that the average family that was just trying to get by, who was like an office worker at the time, who then got subsequently nuked, had a desire for conflict.
I think you should read into the ideas and desires of the people that existed in Japan during World War II and prior to that.
This is war propaganda that was brought forth even by the country itself in order to kind of affirm a certain idea to the enemy, which was the United States at the time. This doesn't mean that it represents the opinions or the feelings of the entire populace. That just means that the war propaganda was very effective at signaling exactly this concept to the enemies, which was then, of course, used as a justification to then eventually nuke them, I believe, within your context of what you're saying.
Okay. I've never heard that argument ever in my entire life. I mean, if that was the case, then I would agree with you, but I don't believe anybody's ever seriously...
Do you want to go to war?
Do I want to go to war? I mean, it would depend on the war.
No, just in general. If in any war, if there was any war and you would just be there, anything, it doesn't matter what the war is, even if it's a losing war, would you still engage with it?
You can't answer that question without context.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
Yeah, the context is a war exists. It doesn't matter what that war is.
It does matter
if you are forced to fight, will you?
Because the answer that I would give would greatly depend upon the war itself, of course.
No, because that is still the thing. If you're like, say, I'm trying to basically speak from the perspective of a person, say in Japan, who's just living their life. And let's imagine that you are that person as well. If you were made to go to war, would you do it?
If I believed at the time that my people were superior and that we needed to, dominate the continent next to us and that we needed to fight to secure our position in the world and be the leaders of the world, maybe, yeah, I would want to go to war, I guess.
Okay, yeah. Well, therein actually kind of highlights your existing position because you are that type of person who's already ready for conflict, kind of wants to engage with that to a certain extent, but only if you say that there is a winning position to make, which is kind of interesting because I think that kind of reflects the arguments chosen, which is also the reflection of politics.
I don't understand what any of that means. It's like asking somebody, like, would you ever want to kill a dog?
It's basically what I'm saying is you don't want to argue about
the dog was attacking me, trying to kill me, then I probably would kill the dog. I mean, it depends on the circumstances, of course.
Yeah, cool. No, basically what I'm discovering, what I'm discussing here is basically there is a box, and we're talking about boxes in a certain extent because we are looking at concepts, not just with substance within them. And you're basically saying, I don't want to argue with boxes, I want to argue with the contents. Right?
No.
Because that's the only way that you can win.
No.
So basically that is like the distillation, of how you would go to war. If you'd said, hey, for instance, if I have to dominate a neighboring continent and I was convinced that we could actually win this war, then I would go to war. But what if that was not the case? Would you then also still go to war?
When you
what if it's a hopeless war?
When you ask me if I
would you still do that?
It depends on the war. It depends on what you're fighting for.
You're fighting for a country and you probably want to get more territory. Let's set that as a precedent. I think that was exactly also what happened. So if you were to take that context specifically, and you knew it was a losing war, would you still fight?
If I was in the United States and it was an aggressive war and it was a war...
No. I'm talking about Japan specifically because you're basically making an excuse for why these people are being nuked. Because that's what that was.
I was saying,
we're kind of implying it.
I wasn't saying that the people... I was challenging your idea that the people were just innocent civilians that were idly wandering by and they happened to be damaged
most of those were.
Bombs. They weren't just idly wandering
by. The people in the army were the ones who were actually fighting, and the people who were living inside of the city were the ones who were living inside of the city.
They didn't have enough weapons and uniforms for the people that wanted to volunteer to fight. Most of the Japanese citizens were poised and ready to fight the incoming planned American invasion.
You need somebody to actually make stuff, but sure.
That's fine.
You're looking at this from
if you're ever looking for the concept of total war, if you want to apply that to a country, Japan was like the best example of a total war country, where every single member of that society was essentially ready to fight to the death against the incoming American invaders. They were poised and ready to fight.
Conceptually, you cannot guarantee that though, because they're still innocent civilians. They didn't want to fight.
You can't guarantee
they would still
it,
bomb the shit regardless.
But then, do you run that gamble with 1 million of your own citizens, with 1 million of your own soldiers? Do you run that gamble, that lottery, and hope that, well, maybe once we invade, maybe they'll all back off and just kind of chill?
No, you're still going to use government propaganda, of course. Doesn't mean that reflects reality.
I'm asking.
It is still going to, and then your enemies are going to use that as an excuse to basically bomb the shit out of you, which is exactly what happened.
So then, should America have done a ground invasion then?
No, of course not. I don't think there should have been any invasion at all. There should have probably been a defense of certain territories, but I think that perhaps the nuking of innocent civilians, which is exactly what that was a bad thing to do, wasn't it? It set a lot of fear into everyone, and also, I think, led to a lot of damages, where, for instance, nuclear technology would probably be would probably still be here in many different ways, where, say, for instance, we're still using like fossil fuels to power our cities in some areas. That's terrible, right? We'd actually want to have more nuclear power as opposed to less of it. And then something like this impact, us using, you know, the understanding of nuclear power as a weapon actually made this specific way of generating power a negative thing. That is bad. It has actually kind of contributed to a very bad impact.
I mean, that is a hypothetical argument that you could make. Unfortunately, we can never study the historical
it's like basically what it was used as an argument to basically shut down.
Yeah, you can say that, but you can also make the argument that one of the biggest reasons why nuclear proliferation is something to be avoided around the world is because people saw how destructive nuclear weapons were in World War II. That seeing two cities nuked so immediately and so entirely by singular bombs, of which were still very primitive in making, is one of the things that led the entire world to come around and say, wow, we probably really need to stop countries from gathering nuclear weapons. Maybe we should make NATO, maybe we should have a nuclear umbrella. But this wouldn't have happened if people wouldn't have seen the destructive power of those nuclear weapons. Japan didn't even really believe the first one would go off. The Soviets didn't know how strong they would be. And once they saw the first one and they saw the Soviets advance, they're like, oh, well, shoot, okay, maybe.
Soviets used the Tsar bomber, which is like
sure, but nobody had seen these bombs.
Okay, hang on a second. Before Prodigal starts going off.
Sure, nobody had seen these bombs tested on cities before. Nobody knew if these would be as effective in combat as they could have been, right? Even though the Soviets did have their own nuclear program, and the Germans were pursuing those. I'm just saying that without seeing them in action, without seeing cities destroyed, without seeing 40, 60, 50, whatever, 80,000 people vaporized, the world.
What do you think they tested it on?
They didn't. Did you think they tested them on civilians and cities?
It actually, I mean, one of the things that were actually tested on model cities was in fact napalm, which was then also subsequently used as well. And the nukes were just a way to finish it. But besides that,
hold on,
we're going to get to Prodigal.
What was the highest amount of civilians killed in a nuclear bombing besides Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
In a nuclear bombing, those two.
Exactly. So the world seeing these two cities, everybody in the world knows.
You didn't have to have a massive loss of life in order to understand how dangerous it was. If you didn't have an understanding of how dangerous it was, then maybe it wouldn't have been dropped in the first place.
You have no idea if that's true.
That's kind of like
that. You have no idea if that's true.
No, it's not. If you see the Tsar bomber basically leveling all kinds of shit and you basically say, here, for instance, my pilots over here have a 50% chance of survival because that's how strong the fucking bomb is, I think that's an understanding. Even the same thing with all the tests in Nevada at the time. You think that everybody understood how powerful these things were?
How many people do you think know what the Tsar bomb is?
A lot of people. I think almost everyone.
Okay, I can't. We're just factually very far apart.
Should I put a vote out? How many people know what it doesn't matter. Anyways,
my guess
Prodigal.
would be
so I kind of want to shift
probably
to
less than like 5 or 10% of people have ever even heard that term before. That'd be my guess.
Tsar bomb. Are you sure? Because everybody's like talking about nuclear this or nuclear that.
Yep.
Everybody knows what Terminator is, and everybody knows what Terminator is. Everybody knows what nukes are, and if everybody knows what nukes are, then everybody knows what the Tsar bomb is because that's the biggest baddest of all the nukes.
Okay, I would guess 5 to 10% of the population.
Okay, perhaps. Anyways, I want to kind of shift the discussion to something that's a lot more open. I think we basically came to the core of your reasoning to a certain extent. I think people can basically listen to this conversation again and just piece it all together. I want to kind of tap Prodigal in here. Okay, and now the discussion between the two of you, I want it to basically look like a chess game. Everybody takes turns, and I don't want you to speak over each other. So, Destiny, I want you to say take a certain amount of time. If it is okay with you, can we do 60 seconds? Like 60 seconds, you make your point, 60 seconds, he makes his point. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, you can take as long as you want, as long as there's no rambling, sure.
Okay, cool. Prodigal, go ahead. 60 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if he's taking the position today, it was a joke. Bad jokes happen. I mean, I've seen the clips, I've seen the texts. Doesn't seem like a joke. But I can understand why now, since you've had some blowback and demonetization, you might be saying that. But in the end, this was an innocent man out with his family who died trying to protect his family. To say you wish this on anybody who supports Trump or might even support him through attending one of his rallies or events deserves to die, I don't know what kind of rhetoric that is to unite. I mean, he went on and on about the right pushing the boundary lines. I mean, I literally saw the United States burn, $2+ billion in property damage, countless murdered. I think it was over 1,500 police officers injured. Law enforcement officers, I'll be more broadly, state, local, and federal. And they didn't care. They had a bail fund. They let him out. When he talks about the right getting above everybody else, I mean, to my knowledge, Donald Trump was the only president who had declassification authority. Biden didn't as a senator or vice president, and Hillary Clinton didn't have it as a secretary of state. We have seen a complete weaponization from the start of the Trump campaign, not even when he entered office. The Russiagate hoax, the Ukraine impeachment hoax, the January 6th sham commission. I mean, you just say platitude after platitude and pivot, and then you end up talking about World War II Japan. You really have nothing to stand on, but I don't expect much because you're in it for shock value and yourself and attention and clicks and money, and everybody else be damned. So listen, if it was a joke, then listen, bad jokes happen. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so the fact that you say Democrats won't take responsibility for the BLM riots when people like Biden were telling people that violence is unacceptable, and then you refer to the J6 investigation as a sham, I think perfectly illustrates the issue we have. And I think that one sentence perfectly encapsulates why I'm so done trying to, quote unquote, play nice with conservatives. This idea that you're asking for an unlimited amount of accountability on the left when you won't even take responsibility for true things that have been documented and have happened on the right is absurd. There's no reason to play by that rule book when conservatives get to enjoy broad immunity from the dumbest possible arguments that one could ever make. When you talk about me changing my position because of blowback or monetization on X has absolutely nothing to do with me making money, number one. Number two, I don't change my opinions based on blowback. I write extensively about the things that I believe, and I document them extensively on video and social media. You can find all of my opinions. They don't change in response to blowback. If anything, I'm more likely to dig in. And three, when you talk about my attitude towards the person that died and whether or not I think it's a joke or not, I think it's a joke and that there are funny things to joke about. Do I wish people would die? Do I encourage people to go out and engage in acts of violence? No. And I've explicitly said, no, I don't. But do I feel sympathy for people that get killed supporting a dictator, supporting a guy who, tried to lead an insurrection against the United States? Of course not. My well of sympathy for those types of people are completely gone. So if somebody does get killed at a rally like that and people are expecting sympathy instead of jokes about it, nah, absolutely not.
Yeah, see, there's a difference between theory and practice. When you look at January 6th, I mean, you look at the Fisher decision, had to go all the way to the Supreme Court. They are pursuing novel legal theories that should never been brought. Anybody who was violent on January 6th should face prosecution. But the truth is the overwhelming majority of people there were nonviolent. The truth is the federal government and other agencies had assets embedded as high up as the number 2 of the Oath Keepers, multiple in the Proud Boys, and to this day through depositions, it's been released, and in excess of 100 law enforcement assets were embedded that day. If you're going to paint this as the worst thing since Pearl Harbor and the Civil War, we require transparency, not a commission where its materials disappear after it's been disbanded, and the only people defending the president are 2 never-Trumpers. Like, you can speak in platitudes and in theory, but we saw what occurred. It came out later through depositions that were concealed that there were requests for 10,000 National Guard troops. Even now, we see HBO footage of Nancy Pelosi admitting it because she did have the authority, and her and Mayor Bowser refused it. So the reality of the matter is you can speak in platitudes, but when we delve into what's actually going on, the depositions, the motions, etc., it's clear that this has been treated in a highly partisan manner. And if it was an insurrection, quote unquote, it shouldn't have been. It should have been public. We should have had all the footage released. We should have known who had the code for the magnetic lock. We should have known how high up and why the federal agents were embedded in these organizations for months and didn't do anything up to the lead up when there was information to the contrary. And both the president and his staff sought National Guard troops. So the reality of the matter is how this was painted is a joke. And for you to still bring it up when the only person who died there was an unarmed veteran who footage showed during that she was trying to calm people down. But now we have dead Trump supporters for 3 years beating the drum. The only person who died on January 6th as a result of it was Ashley Babbitt. Period. There's been people in solitary confinement withheld their due process when terrorists at Gitmo are given better constitutional protections. So to speak about this as if you're holier than thou and can speak about it as a position of authority when clearly this has been weaponized from day one, and you're seeing that as cases get overturned. There is no reason why Enron legislation should have been used to hang over people's heads who were peaceful that you're going to be doing a 20-term bid because it never applied. And that's what the Fisher decision said. But you know this. You're a smart guy.
Yeah, so when we say novel legal theory, it's because we have novel events that are happening in the United States. It's not every day that a president of the United States...
It's called a riot.
It's not every day that the president of the United States directs a riot to the Capitol in order to delay the certification.
Heard.
Yeah, right after he said, fight like hell or you're going to lose your country. Fight like... Hey, I'm just curious. If we were to... Excuse me, I thought I had 60 seconds to speak. I think that we can all...
Because Congress was already going on for 30 minutes.
One after another.
Okay, I'm having my turn to speak. Thank you. I think we can can all look at the videos. We can all see what happened. That when we say, oh, well, what did it look like they went to the Capitol to do? Did it look like they were going there to make their voices peacefully heard? Or did it look like they were going there to fight like hell so that the lawful slates of electors were counted? Well, given that we had a riot, given that one tore through the building, and given that the actual vote itself, the certification of the vote, was delayed, it seems like the thing that Donald Trump said, that you need to fight like hell, you're going to lose your country, is exactly what the people went there and did. Maybe not all of them, but enough of them to delay the certification of the vote, which was Donald Trump's goal the entire time. You talk about all these embedded agents and all this embedded intelligence and everything else. Which one of these people forced Donald Trump to have that meet, to have that speech on January 6th, less than a mile away from the Capitol? No, none of those embedded agents forced Donald Trump to pick that time and that day and to tell those people to go marching to the Capitol building afterwards that he wanted to join, by the way. Nobody forced him to do that. He did that all on his own. And what were they going down there to protest as they walked down to the Capitol with 1776 signs in hand after Donald Trump told them that their country was being stolen from them and that they needed to fight like hell or they were going to lose it and that Mike Pence needed to come through for them? What were those people marching for? With a sign called 1776, which is a pretty famous insurrection. I don't know if you remember it or not. With that sign in hand, and they march down to the Capitol building, and what do? They fight against the certification of the vote, and they delay it using violent tactics. Sounds to me kind of like an insurrection. Every single part that you need for it to be an insurrection is there, and thankfully, we don't even have to guess what the intention is because they're literally holding 1776 signs outside, which is a sign that is commemorating one of the most famous insurrections in our history, arguably the most famous insurrection in our history. When we talk about...
or the founding of the country. I mean, it's like you're a joke. Now you love America, before you're a lefty and a communist. Yeah, they went down there to make their voices peacefully heard. But the reality matters, before Trump even finished his speech, there was issues at the Capitol, right? The Capitol Police should have been there. This is the most heavily surveyed city in America, if not the world. They cannot still find this pipe bomber. There were a lot of incidents that were there. And you keep skirting the issue. Nobody here is going to defend anybody who engaged on violence that day. The reality of the matter is an overwhelming majority were not engaged in violence. Some of them were waved in. Some of them were MAGA mothers walking between velvet lines. So you could try to paint whatever picture you want from the few clips they show on cable news. But there's a lot of other tapes that show Capitol Police walking them in, waving them in, people peaceful, and they left the building after 6. This was not an insurrection. They wanted their voices to be heard because the reality of the matter is a lot of the election integrity issues they were pissed off about still exist. As you know, in Georgia, CISA fought a release of an Excel report that showed clear issues with vulnerabilities in Dominion software. We've seen that recently in Puerto Rico with the Democratic primaries. In Arizona, we've seen somebody arrested stealing fobs trying to enter the tabulation center. There's been multiple cases in Pennsylvania and other jurisdictions where they have found that what occurred in 2020 was not legally authorized, right? Because the legislatures had the power. In many instances, you had governors and secretaries of state overriding what was a legislative process. And you can say, dismiss this as nothing, but we have seen these issues continually pop up, and they have in the last month. So they might be meaningless to you, but at least when I was growing up, I'm a little bit older, I remember 2000, they didn't stop for weeks to count the votes. They did a recount. Here in the middle of the night, everything stopped. Most of the stories didn't apply. You had the TCF Center in Detroit then putting up paper. And Georgia came out later about what's going on at the Dominion voting system. Just because you don't know this doesn't mean it's there. The case law is there. I'm sure you're aware of what happened in Puerto Rico. I'm sure you're already aware of what happened in Arizona. This is an issue that, even though it might mean nothing to you, concerns Americans, especially when the other party is making a concerted effort to enfranchise non-citizens in votings in local elections, and they really don't care about election integrity and other elections. Look no further than Patterson in New Jersey. Look what's going on in Bridgeport in Connecticut. If they're doing this to their own, the Democrats, in primaries, you think all of a sudden when it's the general, they're going to play nice? No, there are clear election integrity issues, and you've seen that with the U.S. Congress now. Almost no Democrats going along with the SAFE Act to ensure that non-citizens aren't voting because they don't care. They're already getting their tax dollars. Everybody knows what's going on. So regardless, when you say Biden's a better option, what does he have to run on, Destiny? What does he have? Gen Z has never been worse. We have record homelessness in the U.S., in New York, in California. Home affordability is at the lowest level it's ever been. Real wages, you've lost 20% of your purchasing power. We're on the precipice of World War III in Europe and the Middle East, and we might end up in China with somebody who's incompetent. We've lost the global south. So you're bringing up all these issues as if Trump's a boogeyman, because that's all they could ever run. They have to paint Trump as a Hitler, as a Nazi, as a psycho, and his supporters. And your rhetoric feeds into that. Because you say you're joking, but I'll be honest with you, it didn't really sound humorous. Usually you have a laugh, a chuckle. That wasn't it. They deserve it. They need it, which I don't think it'd be almost impossible to find anybody on the right to say the same thing. The reality of the matter is,
are we doing 60 seconds still? Because this guy just yapped about like 15 different topics.
I think so, yeah. That would be nice if we could have 60 seconds.
Yeah, let's be a little bit more concise in our answers instead of trying to tread over every single
topic.
topic.
Says the guy talking about Japan and World War II, please.
That was in a conversation that I was having with him prior to you coming up here.
Yeah. I was kind of like gearing it towards that because I was using concepts to argue my point. Trying to somehow stay away from politics, but just arguing with the concept and the box of the concept. So, that's a different thing. So consistency.
When we talk about the overwhelming majority of protesters were peaceful, that's fine. You don't define a riot by how many people are violent and how many people are peaceful. At probably almost any riot, the majority of people there aren't actually destroying stuff. You only need a little bit of the crowd to turn a protest into a riot. You know what else was overwhelmingly peaceful? The BLM protests. Most of them were peaceful. Even most of the riots were peaceful. But it doesn't take that many people to cause a riot to happen, to cause a huge amount of damage in neighborhoods, especially when you have that many people that are protesting. If the overwhelming amount of BLM protesters would have all been rioting, you would have seen, instead of, what was it, $2 billion damage or something at the end, you would have seen hundreds of billions of dollars of damage done across the entire country. So saying that the overwhelming majority was peaceful doesn't really speak to the argument that Donald Trump. Excuse me, bro, you just yapped for like 3 minutes. Oh my God, how are you yapping for so long? Let me begin to respond to all of the stupid shit you're saying.
How were they treated? Did they get bailed out by Kamala's fund or no? Did that happen?
One after another. Come on, everybody, calm down.
Yeah, when you say that the overwhelming majority is peaceful, it doesn't really matter. We're looking at it as a singular event. The singular event was Donald Trump called all of his followers to the Capitol on January 6th, and he sent them to the Capitol in order to protest the lawful certification of the vote. Now, when you talk about, the fact that most people were peaceful, then why was the vote delayed? Why did Ashley Babbitt get shot? Why are there videos of people fighting with cops and breaking into the Capitol building and smashing windows and smashing through the doors? It seems like that wasn't a peaceful protest. It seems like that was a riot. It seems like that was a riot, and it wasn't just any riot. It was a riot aimed at obstructing a lawful process that was ensuring our rights be respected as Americans to have our voices heard to vote for a president of the United States. It was a riot that was directed by Donald Trump in order to delay the certification of the vote, in order for him to illegitimately instantiate himself as president, to entrench himself for another 4 years.
I'm glad we're back down to a riot.
That was the goal.
All right. Everybody calm down. Okay, Prodigal, go ahead. I'd like to both of us to stick to this.
I have to finish. I got like 10% of what he even said. I need to be able to respond to what he said. If he's going to yap for 3 minutes, I have to be able to speak as well. So it doesn't matter if we say, it doesn't matter. If you want to focus on that in your turn, then go for it. It doesn't matter if the overwhelming majority of people, then you should have made that point instead of yapping about World War III at the end of your answer. Okay, so there was a riot.
I was giving you the Biden platform.
There was a riot. What does Biden have to run on? More than Trump does. There was a riot, okay, and that riot was aimed at delaying the certification of the vote, which makes it an insurrection. Okay.
No, when you say that,
excuse me, can I please talk without being interrupted?
Everybody would have
I sat here and listened with no interruption.
Okay. All right. One after another. Let's try not to scream at one another. I mean, we really need a timer feature on X. Okay, so personally, I want the both of you to set timers for yourself so that you can stay within the 60-second limit. Because right now we're discussing something that's obviously a very heated thing that I don't really want to have be discussed. We could also kind of like go to a different topic that I think is a lot better. Every time we have a discussion about January 6th, can we perhaps talk about something more recent or something other than that? Because the whole thing has been discussed out in so many different ways that I think we're always kind of going back to the same conclusion. So can we perhaps even do that in a sense? That would be great.
Yeah, that's fine. My only point was about charging. I mean, he keeps deflecting. I've been clear.
Hold on, wait. I need to finish answering his last thing, or else this is...
Sorry, the mute button is terrible. It is a double mute. Yes.
Okay, I have to finish responding to the 2.5 minute thing that he said before we go back to the 1 minute each. You want to do things afterwards, but I remember a lot. Yeah. So he said earlier also, he referenced the fact that they left the building after 6. That's because that's how long it took Donald Trump to call them off. You talk about how Donald Trump actually said that he wanted 10,000 troops there. That wasn't an official request. It was something that he brought up in passing. There's a reason why there was no official order given. And if there was, Donald Trump is the head of the National Guard for the DC police because that's federally controlled, and Donald Trump is the commander in chief. The chain of command command literally goes right up to him. Like, so the idea that there were 10,000 troops on standby, that he wanted troops there, if he wanted them there, he could have literally ordered them there. He was sitting in his dark room with his Diet Coke, watching the events unfold on TV, listening to Ashley Babbitt die, and he did absolutely nothing to intervene because that's what he wanted. He wanted violence there the entire time. Even though he had the power to stop it and he didn't, he wanted it, and him and Giuliani capitalized on it. As the violence raged on, they made phone calls to sitting lawmakers. McCarthy was an important one. McCarthy, no, hold on. No, Yap was longer than a minute, so I'll take longer than a minute to respond to what you said. Donald Trump and Giuliani took advantage of the violence of the insurrection in order to try to accomplish their goal, which was delaying the certification of the vote so that they could illegitimately entrench him for another 4 years. You brought up Dominion voter software. Why didn't Fox News take that fight up? Why did they immediately give up that case and agree to pay the largest settlement in all of defamation history in order to avoid that case going to court? If you're so sure that the Dominion voter software was corrupt, why is it that Tucker Carlson himself had leaked texts where he was irritated taking orders from Sidney Powell and he wasn't even fully on board with this stuff, that this came out in Discovery, that Tucker Carlson ended up leaving Fox News over this? When you talk about also all of these court cases, man, you know what? It's nice that they at least got to go to court and at least have some of these cases put before judges, even if a lot of them were dismissed on standing because they were ridiculous. At least they got to have their day in court, whereas now you have Donald Trump fighting for immunity from all of these cases. Now we've got a case thrown out because of a schizoid rambling that Thomas did in an opinion saying, well, actually, I think that the special counsel is unconstitutional. Now we've got other cases that are potentially thrown out. Now that we've got other, I'm literally responding to the things that you said. I'm literally responding to things that you said.
You're not really responding to anything.
I am. I literally wrote them down. It's in front of me right now. I have a notepad with every single thing you said, and I'm running down the list, and I'm responding to things you said.
Yeah, I don't need a notepad. I do it straight off my head.
I know. I understand. Trust me. Prodigal. I know about conservatives is that you don't write anything down. Trust me. I know.
I don't know. It's bullshit. So I don't need to. I can answer it clearly.
Yeah, that's great. Well, when you talk out your ass,
you can switch the conversation. You can switch the conversation up after he's done. After Destiny's done. Yeah. In all fairness, yes, he. in all fairness, Prodigal, yes, you have gone on for quite a while, and now he's basically doing the same. It's like a chess game. So if you guys are going to go on for like 5 minutes each, you're going to go on for 5 minutes each, and that's going to be
sure. I'll be polite, and I'll wrap it up with the last thing that he said. There's other things I can ramp. The last thing he said, he mentioned being on the precipice of World War III. What did Donald Trump do to turn the temperature down for that? He didn't do anything to put the brakes on the Russian occupation of Crimea. He recognized the moving of the embassy to Jerusalem, which stoked tensions with the Palestinians. It's what set off the entire 2018-2019 border riots, and he did absolutely nothing when Iran attacked Saudi Arabia. For the first time in all of history, he sat by and he watched and he did nothing. He bombed a Syrian airport because he was upset at Assad. He abandoned our Kurdish allies in northern Syria. I'm just going over foreign policy. Okay, Donald Trump's foreign policy was garbage. It probably put us on a path to World War III more than any other president recently. There you go.
And I will continue. Yeah, well, I'll keep it short. My timer's on. Since he addressed foreign policy, this second invasion happened under Biden. Trump provided lethal aid. He was the first to Ukraine. Listen, it might not bother you that the Biden family made a lot of money in Ukraine. It does to me, especially when it's leading us towards a global conflict. The reality of the matter is Biden has empowered our enemies. Right? You look at Iran, he lifted sanctions. They're still enriching. China came in, made a peace deal with Saudi Arabia and them. Their proxies have never been flush with more money. Same thing happened in Venezuela. He lifted sanctions. They immediately imprisoned their political opposition so they couldn't run, and they had to name somebody new. He has weakened America on all fronts. The Monroe Doctrine is essentially dead in the Western Hemisphere. You have China throughout it. You look at Peru, what they build, and you look what's going on with Lula in Brazil. We have never been worse. The global South has left. BRICS has been gaining more members and more participants because we weaponize the U.S. dollar and financial system. If you look at central banks' holdings, they don't want to hold dollar assets. Right now, we just have dollar-denominated trade. He has done a lot of firsts that have ended very badly for us and have led to multiple regions. He's allowed, that's my alarm I'm out here, he's made North Korea a threat to us all. Through his policy in Ukraine and not pursuing peace, we now have Russia basically vetoing any of the UN nuclear legislation against North Korea. We have them engaging in barter trade. Now they signed the security pact.
What was the point of the timer?
Yeah, but it's done. The point of my time is you lied. The Houthis, a ragtag band of rebels, have rerouted global trade, and Egypt's about to collapse. I don't know what you're talking about. Geopolitically, we've never been worse.
Okay, I mean, if you want to bring up any of these geopolitical circumstances, I mean, Donald Trump literally tried to recognize Juan Guaido as the new leader of Venezuela. He basically implicitly supported an attempted coup in that country for absolutely no good reason. You talk about the pullout for Afghanistan. You talk about the deal that was cut there with the Taliban that totally excluded the Afghanistan army, the Afghanistan government from any of those conversations. They didn't even know when the Taliban rolled in that there was certain territory that Trump secretly promised them that they didn't even have any idea of. That was part of the reason why the country collapsed so quickly. The Taliban literally loaded in, and they were like, hey, we actually, we own this. This is part of our agreement that we had made with the United States that you were excluded from. You talk about all of these foreign affair things. All Donald Trump did was he got photo opportunities with people. He went to North Korea. He got photo ops with Kim. He saluted the North Korean military. First time in presidential history, our president saluted another military. And you know what they did right after that? They went and they continued to test their ICBMs. They continued to test their weapons. You think that South Korea, you think Japan felt any safer that Kim was legitimized as a leader on the world stage? He used to walk around the entire continent with those pictures with the U.S. president as Tillerson and Pence come back to the United States, and they say, oh my God, what did we do? Notice that nobody in his old cabinet supports him at all. Why is he running with a new vice president? Why does he have any support from any of his old cabinet members? Why is it that nobody that's ever worked with Donald Trump in his prior administration is willing to vouch for him again? Why is that if he was such a great president, such a great leader?
Yeah, I think you fail to differentiate between Trump and people who support him in the party. We're not fans of Mitch McConnell. We're not fans of George W. Bush. We don't care about Lindsey Graham. We don't like Paul Ryan. The truth of the matter is Trump ran and basically took over the Republican Party, but he didn't have the apparatus or the people to back him up. A lot of these people are traitors. They admitted after they left office that they lied about troop withdrawals in Syria. On top of that, for Afghanistan, Trump had clear parameters that had to be met. Biden removed the Air Force, removed repairs, and he had the Taliban walking in, and he provided absolutely no support to the Afghani government. Like, let's just be honest. I'll keep this short just because it's literally insane. And China literally walked in. You have to actually imagine at this point, with all the Chinese business deals, how come they seem to be ending up on the winning side of every geopolitical issue? They ended up on the winning side of Afghanistan. In the Middle East, they've consolidated their control in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, and other Gulf Arab states. You look at the same thing in the global South. This has not been a benefit to U.S. policy or strength globally. And anybody who says otherwise is lying. It's not going well. It hasn't been going well. If you think it has, then hopefully Biden wins and you end up in a field in eastern Ukraine come this winter.
Yeah, when you say that Trump ran because he didn't have the apparatus to back them up, I mean, you can say that, but I mean, that in and of itself is an immediately disqualifying statement. When you talk about a guy running because he's a good business leader, because he's a good CEO, because he's going to run the country like a business, the last thing that a leader does is blame the people that he chose to run underneath him. If Donald Trump is going to run on the fact that he's a businessman, then he should be held accountable like a businessman. I can't think of something more humiliating.
Work, right?
I can't think of something more humiliating. I can't think of something more humiliating than blaming every single person underneath me for my incompetence. And what do you mean, do I know how appointments work? You mean how Senate confirmations work? Because the appointment can be anybody that Donald Trump chooses. It's up to the Senate. It's up to the Senate. It's up to the Senate to confirm the appointment. It's up to the Senate to confirm the appointment. It's up to the Senate to confirm the appointment. If Donald Trump couldn't appoint the people that he wanted to, then he shouldn't have appointed anyone. He should have said, oh, well, I guess I can't do the job, and then put the ball in McConnell's court. He didn't do that because Donald Trump is an incapable leader. He doesn't know how to do politics. He doesn't know how to choose the people around him. Nobody said that he had to have Pence as his vice president.
Can we get back to the 60-second format? Jesus Christ.
Well, sure, but he can't. I mean, he keeps screaming over me. You can read the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction. You can read the report. You can read why that pullout failed.
I have it up there.
It wasn't because of Biden's pullout. It was because of the fact that Donald Trump had cut an agreement with the Taliban. He had put that pullout on a timetable, and when he left office, he drew our troop numbers down to the lowest they had ever been, and then he left. So what was Biden supposed to do after that? What, put the troop number back up for the problem that Trump kicked down the road, the can that he kicked down the road then for Biden to deal with?
Maybe use the Air Force, maybe provide support for the machinery.
And get back into and fight more against the Taliban and get into another war in the Middle East?
Yeah, if they're overtaking the country and you're trying to withdraw and it ends up killing 13 Marines, and then you go kill a poor aid worker and claim it's ISIS-K, I don't look at that as a victory. I know you don't care about innocent.
Maybe Trump should have had that in the agreement
whether it's a worker in Afghanistan or some poor fireman trying to attend the rally, I don't think they should be killed. Whether it's by Biden or somebody who hates Trump. I'm sorry, your points don't make any sense. And the report, if you looked at it, they talked about the pervasive corruption. What about the Kurds in Syria?
The ones that Trump abandoned for absolutely no reason.
Abandoned for no reason? We should have never been in Syria, right?
You see how you just didn't answer my question? We also shouldn't have been in Afghanistan, but you're fine to blame Biden for anything that happened after that.
I'm not aware of a mass genocide of the Kurds.
You're not aware of the Turkish coming in and bombing the people that we'd relied on for support for our positions in Syria for over a year? Oh, okay. Okay, that's convenient. Okay, nice.
Yeah, I care about America. If you want to fight
very
for
selective. Oh, I thought you were just talking about the Middle East.
It is selective.
I thought you said an innocent person anywhere. I thought you said innocent people in Afghanistan. Is it not an innocent person anywhere now?
You're up here talking about Israel all the time. Now you care about Kurdish statehood? Go fight for it. If you want it, go do it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is not a priority.
You're the one that said innocents everywhere. So my bad. I got confused for a second, I guess.
No, I'm talking about when our president says he kills a terrorist and it was an aid worker that actually assisted U.S. forces in Afghanistan.
Oh, okay.
You know that one.
But when Donald Trump says he wants to kill the families of terrorists, those are just funny memes.
Yeah, if they're terrorists, then it is what it is.
Families of terrorists? Families of terrorists?
You sleep over Soleimani?
I
don't know. You're the one who's up here defending Israel every other day.
That's not an answer. When Donald Trump says that he wants to kill the families of terrorists, do you think that was a good message? Do you think that was responsible?
I mean, listen, if you can't hit the target and it's only in a certain position and it's targeted, yeah. I mean, in certain instances,
so you support Donald? Okay, then don't sit here and pretend that
you're drawing an equivalency between that and a psycho killing a fireman at a rally.
I didn't draw an equivalency anywhere. I just asked if you supported Donald Trump stating that he would kill the family members of terrorists. Seems like your answer is yes. So I don't know why.
Well, it's better than Biden killing aid workers.
What a crazy whataboutism there. Jeez, yeah. So I guess you don't like either of them.
Crazy whataboutism. You haven't.
I wonder how much you've been critical of Donald Trump over Joe Biden when it comes to talking about targeting innocent people.
Yeah, well, what do you mean target? You have Hillary Clinton on CNN laughing with Christine Yamanpour how they want to throw Trump supporters and fucking re-education camps. You have literally Biden weaponizing
I'm not going to vote for Hillary next election.
You have Biden weaponizing the
I'm not going to vote for Hillary or
go after Trump. He doesn't like it. He can't take facts. He tries it a little bit.
Facts?
Trump,
like the insurrection that Donald Trump read in 2020?
All right.
Calm down. No more screaming.
To try to nationalize Capitol Police into an intelligence service. They're going after fucking Catholics, school board parents. Yeah, you're a real hero there, Destiny. You're the moderate. You want to chop off little kids' penises. You're the moderate in the room.
Nice.
Jesus.
Yep, Donald Trump, he had 7 different sets of people lie and send in fake electoral votes to Congress. He told his vice president that he wanted him to choose the fake electoral votes. He went by a plot hatched by Eastman. We've all seen the memo. We've all seen what they tried to do. And when that failed, he tried to use violence to encourage Pence to flip the vote. When that failed, and he reluctantly accepted it, and he tweeted out, okay, guys, you can go home. That's why they left at 6 o'clock, by the way, not because they had to be home for dinner, but because Donald Trump finally begrudgingly got on his Twitter account and made that announcement that they needed to go home. After all of that, Donald Trump's defense for himself wasn't to say, I didn't do this. It wasn't to say that, well, what I was doing wasn't bad. It wasn't to say, well, they got some of the facts wrong. What he did was he went before the Supreme Court and he said, I need criminal immunity from every action that I just did. I need criminal immunity. If I wasn't impeached for it, you can't hold me criminally liable for it. I think that speaks more to the nature of the actions that Donald Trump did than any excuse you can make for him on any platform that you're on.
That's not it. I mean, you realize this same standard basically applies to business executives, like the business judgment rule. As chief executive, he's allowed to investigate. Yeah, you're allowed to. If you are going to have every decision you make attacked, you cannot govern a government and you cannot run a business. Election integrity issues existed, whether you want to believe they do or not. They're still popping their head, literally, in the last couple of weeks.
I'm sorry.
So yes, it did fall under his official duty.
Yeah, correct. So you're saying business leaders can't be charged with crimes? They
enjoy
that's not my absolute criminal immunity? So you're saying that maybe it's good.
It's called, no, you're not listening. It's going over your head. It's pretty sad.
No, it's not.
You give certain deference that can be argued as an executive decision under business, or here as an executive running a government, because you have to give deference to certain decisions.
We don't. You actually don't need to give. You don't need to give criminal deference. You don't need to have criminal deference given. There isn't criminal deference given to business leaders. You don't need to give criminal deference ever. You know why? Because criminal laws exist for a good reason, and the public has an interest in not only other members of the public not committing crimes, but especially in the leader of the public, the president of the United States, not committing crimes. I don't believe that he needs deference because committing crimes is not in the purview.
January 6th. What crime did he commit?
Well, we're not allowed to talk about them now, I guess.
Then it's a celebration. Congratulations. Enjoy the moment.
I guess, yeah, it is. No, I'm good. I actually personally don't like to exist under a man who believes that he's above criminal court. Because you know what? When you take a man and you make him a king, what's the way that you get rid of the king? How do you say that this isn't turning up the violence?
Who made him a king? You made him a martyr.
He's not a martyr. He's not dead. Excuse me. You know he's not dead, right? You know that he's actually not dead, right? You know Trump's still alive, right?
Yeah, you could still be a martyr and undergo a number of shit without actually dying. You know, it's possible.
I don't think that Trump is a martyr, okay, because he had a bloody ear. I
think my point is that you've made him.
No, I think the Supreme Court made him. When the Supreme Court said that he's beyond criminal, when he's beyond criminal probing,
the polls don't agree with you. There's been multiple polls. You can scream. There's been multiple polls. America agrees with me. You're in the minority. They view this as politically weaponized pursuit of Trump under the judicial system.
That's great because people like you lie about it, and that's great, and that's why I'm here. That's fine. That's why I'm here fighting for it.
Working.
You think well, hold on, wait. I thought we didn't agree. I thought we didn't agree with the polls. Now we agree with the polls? That's great. I can be in the minority and say that I don't actually appreciate an insurrection in the United States. Maybe a majority of Americans do support that now.
You called it a riot before. Nobody's been charged with insurrection.
I said that it was a riot that was trying to obstruct the certification of the vote. That makes it an insurrection. Just like a stabbing of somebody with the intent to kill them makes it attempted murder.
Well, then why haven't they charged it, and why hasn't the Supreme Court disagrees with you? I'm confused. Why haven't they charged it?
I don't believe the Supreme Court has made a ruling on whether or not Donald Trump was guilty of any of the crimes he was charged with.
The most significant felony charge they said should not apply in this instance.
That's great. I don't think that whether or not Donald Trump has engaged in insurrection isn't really material to a lot of the questions relating to the current cases that he's facing. For instance, for the New York one that just got tossed, that wasn't even mainly about the willful retention of national defense secrets. It was mainly about the obstruction, but that's tossed now. The question isn't, did he incite a riot or did he engage in insurrection? I think wisely, I think Jack Smith avoided a lot of those questions because what probably is a lot harder to convict on those things and gets us into really weird First Amendment territory. But the fact that we can't even speak about the conspiracy to defraud the United States, we can't speak about that conspiracy where he made a plan from start to finish to carry out an insurrection, I think is a tragedy to the American people.
Yeah, think tanks and lawyers can give advice. I mean, I'm sure you've read about what Podesta's plan was for 2020, right? He was going to have an alternate slate of electors. He was going to wait for Oregon or California.
Oh, yeah? Who carried that out?
Yeah, you've read that.
I mean, you're well-read. Who carried that out? Who carried that out?
But you don't understand.
Prodigal, who carried that out? Who carried that out?
Just like you had a novel legal thing. Those riots stopped that.
Who carried that out? Who carried out the Podesta plan? Who carried out the Podesta plan?
It should have been sent back to the states to ensure the integrity.
No, that's not
the riot actually ended that. As soon as the riot happened, anybody with a brain knew this is over. Nobody's going to touch it. So you're pointing to this as if this was the plan of Trump supporters. I'm telling you right now, I'm a Trump supporter, and anybody who saw violence on the Capitol that day knew as soon as that occurred that any of the concerns they had about election integrity were over. And that's what we saw. We saw a number of reps and other senators who would have voted to say, it's the truth, who would have voted to say, let the states double check this and ensure it's right. They couldn't do it no longer at that point. And you're well aware. You're well aware. You can look at the Washington Post.
Who tried to carry out the Podesta plan that you brought up? Can you tell me who? Why don't you just answer that simple question? Can you just answer that? You can keep rambling. Just answer that question. Who tried to carry out Podesta's plan?
Well, they ended up stopping voting and winning, so they didn't have to.
Who ended up? Right? Oh, so nobody? They didn't try. How could they have executed the plan when the votes are being certified if they didn't do it in advance?
So you're saying Trump's plan was to have a riot so that Congress would never hear any of the issues. That's what you're arguing the logic was?
Yes, it was to pressure Pence to make the right choice.
That was not the plan.
Then what did Trump mean? What was Trump telling people to encourage Pence to do? What did he mean by that?
What did he mean?
Yes, thank you for repeating that. What were they trying to pressure Pence for? Hey, Prodigal, what were they trying to pressure Pence to do? Answer that question. What were they trying to pressure?
To consider a valid legal theory, in my opinion. That's
a valid legal theory. If it wasn't one that required
if it wasn't valid, they wouldn't have to have passed the law. Can I say one thing? If it wasn't valid, they wouldn't have had to pass a fucking law to say you can no longer do this.
That's not how laws work at all. No.
That's not true. They didn't pass that.
Their theory relied on the ECA being unconstitutional.
I'm talking about after the election.
All right, let's screening multi-communications. Jesus Christ.
Did Congress outlaw this novel legal theory after the election? That is yes.
No.
So if it wasn't viable, should I post it up top? Do I need to?
You can't outlaw something. Eastman's entire plot was contrived.
They changed the certification process. They passed new laws regulating this.
Eastman's entire plot hinged on the idea that they could challenge the constitutionality of established law. Constitutionality exists above the law. The fact that peaceful doesn't matter when you're trying to overturn the election results.
Doesn't matter.
But anyway, just to be clear, you guy that got shot at the rally. This is why I don't give a about showing sympathy. This is why I don't give a. This is why I don't give a about the sympathy for any of you losers, because you won't own up to anything.
Don't take it out on me because your wife left you, Fester.
Nobody is talking about my
all right. Everybody calm down. Jesus Christ.
You got the skin complexion of Uncle Fester. Go worry about your
ex-wife. And you've got the voice tone of a guy with an A1C of 15, okay? Good for you.
That's fine. Listen, I don't even know what that means. God bless.
I'm sure you don't. That's why your feet are about to fall off, dipshit. Oh, muted me again.
Okay,
oh my
God!
Listen, all I'm saying is,
go play some video games and talk about Israel. You got nothing else to add.
Yeah, and go obsess over trans people for another 2 years while you obsess over which light beer you decide not to drink, okay?
Yeah, when my next generation of my family is having to play against them and having scholarships taken away because they're actually good in ball and sports, I know you might not play that shit, then yeah, it affects them.
Yeah, and when the next generation of your family can't play sports because they're all inbred, okay? We can talk about that too, all right? Listen,
no, I doubt that.
If conservatives are unwilling to take responsibility, even for January 6th, of which there's more documented evidence than like any other fucking event in all of fucking human history, I'm good on being held to any standard by these people. That's my entire argument. So thank you for bringing up the political substance of it. Any final questions?
Well, listen, I'm happy you want to sexualize prepubescent children.
That's really weird and really gross. The only one
when they have record low testing scores.
That's really weird. All right, do you think about sexualizing prepubescent people?
So how do we get into this? Okay, how did we get into this?
Let's not get into that. Yeah, kind of weird, really strange.
It's your party platform.
Okay, let's not talk about anything child-related. How about that?
Yeah, that'd probably be good. Prodigal really wants to go there, though.
What the fuck? I don't really know if anyone wants to go anywhere. Okay, what else do we want to discuss here? Okay, we have a debate with a very contrarian debate with more of a focus on politics. That's something that I actually wanted to ask you a bit early on, but didn't get the chance to because, you know, we kind of drifted away from that, kind of at fault of myself. Who would be your ultimate president of the options that currently exist?
My ultimate president? I'm not even entirely sure. I would have to do, like, I've heard of people like Newsom. I'm aware of his history as governor of California, and I know that he speaks well, but I would have to see, like, an explicit platform laid out. Like, what do you think are the good things to do policy-wise for this country? Because that's what I would vote on a candidate for. In terms of the options... Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Continue.
I was going to say, in terms of the options available in front of us now, I mean, it seems like you basically have three options. It seems like you either have Trump or you have Biden, or if Biden steps down, you have Kamala Harris. I mean, between Biden and Harris, my guess is going to be... Because I don't know if Harris has a chance of winning on a broad platform, maybe. But, I mean, between the two, I imagine their platforms would be relatively similar. I would obviously vote for either of them way before I'd vote for Donald Trump, so...
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he mentioned Newsom, which this is a guy who California is wanting, what is it now, a $70 billion deficit? This is a guy who took San Francisco, which was the goose that laid the golden eggs through big tech, that pushed all this leftist bullshit throughout the country, and he basically bankrupted and destroyed the city. This is who he thinks will be a good president. California has record homelessness. It's in the dumpsters. It's barely built any infrastructure. How long have they been building that bullet train? They haven't barely built any reservoirs since the 70s, and their population has quadrupled. If you care about bullshit platitudes and nothing that actually makes your life better, you should listen to Destiny, because Newsom is nothing but a snake oil salesman. He screwed his best friend's wife. I mean, maybe Destiny likes that. I don't know. But he's not a good man.
Yeah, so it's interesting. If you bring up infrastructure and balanced budgets, it sounds like you're a Biden supporter. Donald Trump ran, and he spoke a lot about getting an infrastructure bill passed. He couldn't do it. Even when he had majorities in both halves of Congress.
Is that why Boeing's flying out of the sky in East Palestine?
He couldn't pass that infrastructure bill. He couldn't pass the infrastructure bill. And when you talk about budgets, Donald Trump ran the largest budget deficit in all of presidential history for no reason.
Shut the nation,
for absolutely no reason. He didn't even need to do it. He did tax cuts, and he didn't pair it with budget cuts. And Donald Trump ran huge way before COVID. He was running massive budget deficits. So if your concern is the budget and infrastructure, Donald Trump absolutely can't be the guy that you're going with.
No, I mean, you do realize that there's people in both the left and the right who really don't give a shit about this country and care about big pharma, military contractors, etc. There's a reason why none of his platform passed. He asked for a couple billion for the wall. Paul Ryan went on his own tangent. Like, you keep on talking as if Trump has control over the party. It's starting now since Lara, has ascended to the top of the RNC, but this is still an ongoing process. There's been never Trumpers, and there still are, because they benefit off of the destruction and extraction of wealth and lies from this country. And this isn't limited to the left. This exists on the right. It exists in spades. Right. So I think these arguments about what Trump could viably do and what Newsom is responsible for in California are incomparable. And this is the last point. That major deficit you saw was the last year after the government basically had closed. Most of the blue states had already closed at that point. They shut down. They had no choice. The economy would collapse. Right now, Biden is telling you the economy has never been better, and we're in peacetime, and we're running record deficits during peacetime and alleged economic boom. What the hell you think is going to happen eventually? Like, the economy is not as good as you say it is. This is propped up through natural gas, oil, a bunch of illegals being in the country, and arms being shipped overseas. Ordinary Americans are not suffering. GDP is meaningless when you let in 13 million people that consume services and goods. It just adds to the bottom line. When you look at the actual health of Americans from Gen Z onward, right? Even the boomers are seeing record homelessness. Americans are not doing well. Like, you're talking about all these other platitudes that really in reality matter. If Biden loses, it's because most people's lives, if they didn't have assets and didn't get past this inflation nightmare that he's created, they're not doing well, and that's why they're going to vote. No, you look at the polling.
The economy, yeah, nothing you're saying. Yeah, I know the polling is something, but nothing you're saying is traced to reality. You can complain about the economy shutting down. The first 2 years of Trump's budgets, his deficits were larger than every single budget that Obama proposed for the last 4 years of his administration. I thought Republicans were supposed to be the reduce the tax but reduce the spending. They didn't. All Donald Trump did was deficit spend. That's all he did. The only part of his economy they take credit for, because it was already booming. We were hitting all-time highs in the markets from 2013 onwards, even under Obama. Trump carried on the trend, and all he did was he engaged in even more deficit spending. That thing that conservatives are supposed to hate, except for when their people do it. And that was way before the country closed from COVID.
Except that real wages actually increased, and for women, minorities, they saw record increases in wages, and even blue-collar wages outpaced white-collar wages before COVID-19.
Wow, wages were increasing when the government was deficit spending? Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, that hasn't happened under Biden. That happened.
Wow. Wages are higher now than they were under Trump. Yeah. Everything has grown. The economy is at a higher state now than it was under Trump.
I'm not talking about nominal wages. I'm talking about purchasing power.
I'm talking about real wages as well.
You've lost 20%. Everybody has lost 20% under Biden. That's a fact. That's his own treasury. That's statistics out of the Bureau of Labor. These are all Biden stats. These are not shit I'm making up. What are you talking right now?
You just said that the only reason Trump ran a high deficit was because of COVID. His deficits were monumental prior to that. You're just making shit up. You're just picking and choosing stats. I'm
not making shit up. I said the last year, that deficit, you see a major deficit. The economy was closed. Look at what Biden's been running with the economy open. That was, if there was ever emergency spending, when they closed us all down for the COVID hoax, that was the time, because everybody was going to go bankrupt. And a lot of people did go bankrupt, right? Biden didn't have that. He didn't need that. Right? He's spending this when he's telling you you're never doing better, when you're seeing record increases in the inability to buy home. Home affordability is the lowest it's been in almost 20 years. Right? You look at other major stats, they're not good. Look at delinquencies in car payments. Look at delinquencies in credit cards. Look at 401k hardship withdrawals. This is all factual data that's not coming out of fucking Breitbart. This is out of the administration and other major corporate press releases. And I could put them up top, but I shouldn't need to, because you went on how well educated you are and you understand this.
If you want to break down any particular economic indicator and you want to go over the state of the economy, we could set that debate up. Absolutely, no problem. I don't have every talking point memorized right now for that, but if you want to dive through any of what any of these
write it down. I don't write anything down.
Trust me. Yeah, when you lie about shit all the time, you don't have to lie to things down. You don't even remember the shit you said. Yeah. Tell me, in the next election, let's say that it comes out that Democrats somehow end up winning. Would you support it if Donald Trump and I guess Vance were to find some way, or if Senate Republicans were to find some way to delay the certification of the vote or resist the certification of the vote? Would you support that?
That's a very fact-intensive pattern. I don't know. I wouldn't like to speculate at this point.
Okay. So if let's say that they launched some court cases, and let's say that they all failed up to the certification of the vote, would you support them if they still felt like they had questions about the vote? They feel like they had questions that it wasn't legitimate. Would you support them trying to delay the certification of the election?
I think it depends. Yeah, I do. If voting stops in the middle of the night and they tell poll workers to go home and vote dumps start over the next couple of weeks and Biden makes up the deficit, yeah, I'd have an issue with it. And I'd hope, unlike 2020, listen, judges and attorneys are normal people, right? They have their own fears, their own biases, etc. So this is a hot potato case that really nobody wanted to touch in 2020.
And you think all the judges in 2020 just didn't want to deal with it? Even the Trump appointees, all of them said, "No, sorry, too hot for us."
Correct. I do think so, because I think there would have been violence on either side. I think as easily, if Trump had won on some of these merits, you would have seen Antifa and BLM burning down the country. And we've actually seen some documentation from NGOs that basically said the same.
And you think that
it wasn't Podesta's plan. You remember that?
Sure. And you think that we couldn't trust Congress to figure out if the vote was certified correctly or not? We couldn't just trust them to just certify the vote?
No, I'm not a big fan of government. I think they do a lot of things poorly. That's why I like Trump and Schedule F. I think we need to cut down the bureaucracy.
And we can't trust trust...
think the EPA should be charging farmers for how much their cows fart or doing other asinine bullshit. Listen, to my knowledge, dropping bombs
hold on, real quick.
in Ukraine
Could we
and the
trust...
Middle
we don't need to talk about
cause
Ukraine.
a lot of pollution.
And you don't trust William Barr.
How come that pollution doesn't count?
You don't trust... you don't trust William Barr.
All right, one after another. Okay, we've gone to bombs. Let's go to Destiny real quick.
Sure. Just like 2 more final questions, then I'm done. You don't trust Barr? You don't trust what Bill Barr was saying, that he didn't see evidence of voter fraud based on what the FBI said?
No, because U.S. attorneys come out and said Barr gave a stand-down order. Moreover, I never liked Barr. I thought it was weird his father hired Jeffrey Epstein in New York City to be a school teacher at that academy and prep school. I think Bill Barr has a lot of issues. Bill Barr is a W man. Okay. He's an HW man. He's an old Bush neocon, and you know the Bush family. I mean, they're CIA bred. So no, I don't like Bill Barr. You might.
Just curious, what is your? Are you like I'm not asking it. I'm genuinely curious. Are you like a content creator or pundit, or what do you do? Or are you just like a? Do you just?
No, I just post news. I'm probably done after this election.
Just posting. Okay.
Either way it goes. Listen, I don't even think maybe Trump can improve the economy at this point. The U.S. is a very advanced machine. There's a lot of policies and money invested. They put a lot of money in a lot of green tech and cut corners elsewhere. And this is something that I think is going to be complicated. I think if Trump or Biden wins, I think that next term is really going to be hard for both of them. I think America is not in a great position geopolitically, economically.
Just as a bow on all of this, I guess. I guess what I want people to understand when they hear people say things with a nice tone of voice and they don't think about the content of what's being said. So you just said that you didn't trust the judiciary to make any decisions about the election. You clearly didn't trust.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
No, you said that you didn't trust them because they thought that the temperature was too high and that all of them rejected the cases for political reasons. That's what you said. And
no, that's not what I said.
At this point, I don't care for clarification. They can rewind if they want to listen to it. But you said that they rejected those cases for political reasons. So you don't trust the judiciary. You don't trust Congress. You said you don't really trust government. So you don't trust Congress to make the right decisions, and you don't even trust the DOJ to make the correct decisions. What you want, what you're asking for, and Adrian, what I had asserted earlier, was that Republicans want to anoint a king. What you're asking for is a king, a dictator. You don't trust any of the 2 branches of government, and you don't even trust the Department of Justice or the FBI. You want one man at the head of the executive, your king/dictator, who's now been granted criminal immunity from the Supreme Court to make all of the decisions. Not you. I'm talking about Prodigal. I'm saying that that's what you want. You want an emperor, and you just spelled it out perfectly.
No, that's not what I did. I mean, you're a lefty. There's a lot of stuff the left and the right can work on. The too big to fail banks are even bigger. There's been massive consolidation, whether it's from meatpacking. I
don't care about any of this. I don't care about any of this. We have nothing that we have nothing to work together on. I don't work together with people that want an emperor.
Pro-war.
I don't want a person who's a king. I'm anti-king.
You're pro-war,
I'm anti-king. I'm pro-democracy. I'm pro-democratic republic.
Anti-king?
I'm pro-separation
You literally had multiple coups. You had
separation of powers.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, one after another. Come on, man.
It's just weird. I mean, literally, he's like, do you trust the DOJ? I don't know. Should I trust the DOJ, FBI, and CIA that hit John Brennan's handwritten note admitting that Hillary Clinton, the DNC, funded the Steele dossier and the Russiagate hoax? Why did I have to wait? Not when Mueller talked, but basically for fucking Nunes to retire and become DNI to declassify material they had when they let people like you and Rachel Maddow on Corporate Media News for years claimed Trump was a Russian spy. He's a Russian asset.
Why do you trust Donald Trump?
I don't necessarily trust him. You know what I trust? I trust his desire to write his name and to deal with these corrupt criminals that nobody wants to touch.
That's trusting him. Why do you trust him? Why do you trust Donald Trump to not be
corrupt? Because they tried to throw him in jail and they tried to kill him. So either he cleans this mess, or not only him.
That's not. You didn't answer anything. Give me an answer. Speak something real. Speak something true. No, not because of what somebody did to him. Tell me, why do you trust Donald Trump?
Don't get mad. I just told you, I trust in his desire and need to deal with these corrupt elements in government that hamstringed his first presidency, went after him and anybody around him and his sons, and now
he could deal with that in corrupt ways, though. That doesn't make him honest. That doesn't make him a good president. He could just go after them personally. He could order assassinations on them.
So the lawless, extra legal means and the completely politicized bureaucracy and alphabet boys should be allowed to run rampant. Like, this isn't something limited to Trump.
Lawless and extra legal? You mean about like the absolute criminal immunity that Trump was just granted to escape him from all of his criminal cases?
Like the IRS going after conservative groups under Obama. Obama having Fast and Furious and Eric Holder not answering a subpoena, and then weapons, military-grade weapons, being found in El Chapo's residence when he's found. That seems like a scandal to me, even when our northern neighbor has now a narco state where 70 politicians get killed every election season. How many reporters are missing? No, these are issues that affect America more than the Middle East and more than Ukraine. We share a border with
Donald Trump isn't corrupt, why did he pardon every single person that was convicted of a crime that he worked with? Why did he pardon Manafort?
Probably for the same reason that the Podesta brother got away. Podesta was implicated. That's not an answer.
Why are we talking about Podesta?
Because the weaponized system went after him and used procedural bullshit. I'm sure you've read.
You want a king. Yeah, you want a king. Just admit it. Just say it. I don't know why you guys would just be honest. Just say, I want a king. He's above the law, and his friends are above the law. He's above the law, and his friends are above the law. He can pardon everyone that he wants.
He didn't take bit bleach to his servers and hammers to his BlackBerry. He wasn't a VP.
Excuse me. Hillary fully cooperated with all of those investigations. Donald Trump pled the fifth on everything, and every single person around him invoked executive privilege on every single thing. Yeah, neither did Hillary Clinton. Neither did Hillary Clinton. She could have got an attorney.
She did get attorneys. It's actually in their motions where they literally
she cooperated with the police the entire time. She had an attorney for correspondence.
By wiping her servers,
that was department policy.
Tens of thousands of emails later on Anthony Weiner's laptop that she claimed didn't exist. If you actually look at the Comey, if you look at the Comey
what came out of all those emails? What were the crimes committed in all those emails that she was hiding?
Because they were implicated.
Crazy, because there were no crimes. There was nothing to find. Crazy how that works, huh?
Yeah. Is that how you read the Robert Hur thing? Oh no, Biden has a poor memory. He's a
now we're jumping to her. We gotta jump to so many Podesta, her, Hillary Clinton. You know what all these people have in common?
All right. Jesus fucking Christ! It feels like the playground.
The lawfare.
How the fuck is he talking? Anyways. Damn, the mute button is completely cooked. I posted a meme saying, this is what it feels like to be cooked. This space is cooked. I think we're all cooked well done now. It's like, we're entering stew territory right now. Okay, let's put some seasoning on this and bring back the decorum, essentially, right? Because I think a lot of that has evaporated. Is there anything else that we can discuss? Or
just as a real quick thing, because I have to, 9 o'clock is generally my out time, and I got other stuff that I have to do tonight.
Sure.
Yeah, I will just say as a quick thing, I think that this gentleman next to me, I think he laid out everything that he wanted in an emperor. He wanted somebody that was above the judiciary because he doesn't trust them because they're too political. He doesn't trust Congress because he doesn't trust the government. And he doesn't trust the DOJ because he thinks that all of the AGs are too politicized and they're untrustworthy. But he wants Donald Trump, the president of the United States, who, by the way, has every incentive to lie, cheat, steal, murder, and everything for his own personal gain. He's got the largest financial investment in it, right? He's a billionaire, and he hasn't divested from anything. He has the largest personal investment in it because he wants to be the president, the king of the United States, and he's got the largest avoidance of responsibility investment in it. He doesn't want to be held responsible for any of the crimes he's been charged with. So the idea that this guy who has every incentive to lie, cheat, and steal, things that he's essentially been accused of, that he's trying to avoid criminal responsibility for, and things that he's pardoned every single member of his inner circle that has been convicted of crimes, okay, not charged, but convicted of crimes. He's pardoned all of them. I think shows you the type of leader that Republicans are looking for.
Yeah, so for that reason, Destiny thinks that innocent firefighters should die a gruesome death trying to protect their family from a mad gunman. You're a hero, man. I gotta admit, good content. I like that you went for the shock value. None of what you said I agree with. The reality of the matter is it is weaponized. When you have the DOJ altering emails to you know this, right? The FISA court almost never issues public statements. They had to literally admonish the DOJ and the FBI for lying to them to get warrants against basically members of a running presidential campaign and a president. Like this has occurred. You might view these as small things. These were unprecedented. And it came out later, it was all based on lies. And there's been no accountability. Just like COVID, just like the mandates, just like the lockdowns, you want everybody to move on. And the only point is Trump is Hitler, Trump is the worst. Well, I'll tell you this, most Americans look fondly up other than to the COVID days of the Trump presidency, and that's why he's going to win, because nobody's buying what you're selling. But I like the passion.
Okay.
Well, thanks for the space. I'll chat with you later, buddy.